hello everyone, and welcome to this evening's broadcast of the Porsche Heuer Esports Supercup. My name is Connery Maddock, and I'll be your host for this evening. Beside me for this portion of the broadcast is the one, the only, Mr. Matt Trivet. But before we get to see the professionals take to the track, we have our All-Stars. Matt, we've had some brilliant action last time out at Barcelona. The practice times have been absolutely incredible here for this event as well. Very close indeed. Do you think we'll get to see a repeat?
You know what? I think it's going to be a lot of fun again either way. It's been, to be fair, the Barcelona action in the All-Star race, the first one around was okay. There was a few good battles, some close finishes, some contact. Barcelona had some really good racing, and I have to say, a couple of guys really impressed me. Dan Suzuki became sort of Mr. Racecraft to me. That guy looked fantastic. Didn't look the fastest, but held his own. And yeah, I think hopefully it turns out to be the same. I think Imola's a little bit trickier to drive in these cars, though.
Yeah, I think so too. Not a lot of room to maneuver as well when it comes to side-by-side action. That's a big difference compared to Barcelona, where the track surface is very inviting sometimes. But still, that's not a track that's known for its overtaking, yet we still saw a lot of it last time out. But we'll be heading into a warm-up in just a couple of moments. We can see the cars out there practicing, getting some last-minute practice in with the final couple of minutes of warm-up that we have. We've got our schedule up in just a couple of moments as well. So this is what it looks like. We've got 2 rounds under our belts now. We've had our rounds at Interlagos and Barcelona, but now we head to Imola for the final round using the 911 GT3 Cup car. Next round, we'll be using the Cayman.
I say potentially, because that last round is still to be determined. So we might see it again. But yeah, it's definitely the last planned weekend for the 911 GT3 Cup car, switching to the Cayman next time out. A little bit more of an inertia car, momentum car. But yeah, these 911 Cup cars around here will be very tricky. You know, a lot of trail braking, narrow circuit. Curbs are key. But for these guys, for some of them especially, depending on how much practice they put in, survival might be key. I'm seeing a bit of a gap in the practice times. Not a massive one, but about 2 seconds front to back. So similar to what we've seen at the other tracks. But we'll see if it's the usual suspects at the front. I think Emery is certainly one to watch. We'll see if quick Gabby can get a better qualifying in and give her more of a contest early.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll have to see what happens when it comes to qualifying. But there's the format up on your screen for you now. So we got 10 minutes qualifying, 3 flying laps that these drivers will have to complete anymore, and those won't count. Then we head on to a 17-minute sprint race, and then a 22-minute feature race here at Imola. So a lot of action still on the cards here. We have, not even grazed the surface with what this event has to offer at the moment. But you're exactly right, Matt. Emery is setting some very, very quick times out there in practice. And let's have a look at the track map then. Of course, this is a very historic circuit, just in motorsports in general. And it's gone through a lot of changes over the years. There it is from up above, that long run down the pit straight into the Variante Tamburello. Of course, way back when, that used to be just a sweeping left-hand corner, but due to the unfortunate instance of Ayrton Senna, it was reprofiled and reconfigured to what you see here today. Same with the Villeneuve chicane as well, just after. That was the slightly incident of Roland Ratzenberger in that very same Grand Prix weekend as well. Heading into Tosa, coming towards the middle sector of the lap, turn number 7, a left-hand hairpin as you start to go up the hill towards Piratella, fast left-hander, and then down the hill again towards Arco Minerale, turn 9, turn 10, and then you head to the Variante Alta at the very top in terms of elevation at this circuit, turn 11 and 12. And then the very end of the lap, you have the 2 Ravazzas, turn 14, turn 15, to be able to set up the run down that long straight to make some slipstream passes happen into turn 1.
And such a momentum track all the way through in itself. You know, I'd love to point out a few spots that you have to nail, but really, you kind of have to get all of it right. The way that it all links together, you lose momentum. If you get sort of Tamburello wrong, you're going to lose speed down into Villeneuve. Your setup through Villeneuve is going to help you get through. Tosa's enough breaking point, but it's going to help you set up better for that. You can kind of reset your lap if you get things wrong there by getting it nice and slowed down for the hairpin. But Piratella stands out for me. I've always thought the cars that can carry the most momentum through there and keep it hard left on entry, that's going to give you much more for Arco Minerale. And then Variante Alta, from what I've heard from the PESC guys, of course, they're going to nail it with that consistency because they're insane. But they're all saying it's kind of just a Hail Mary. Jam the brakes, slam the curbs, and get out the other side. And I'm sure they've just got it down to a rhythm, but it's a bit tricky.
Yeah, it's especially going to be tricky for these all-star drivers, which don't have as much experience as the professional Porsche Esports Supercup drivers. So those clips can really catch you out through Variante Alta. They're very aggressive, shall we say. So if you hit it just wrong, then the car's just going to be completely upset, and you're not going to recover that every time.
Yeah, fortunately for me, you're going slow enough through there that you may not get the best lap time out of there in that case, but the curbs that I think are bigger killers are actually Tamburello, because you head in there, you clip one of the sausage curb on the inside, and it's just going to send you. You lose the rear of the car. There you go. There's a good look at them, those sleeping policemen as they're known. Yeah, you hit one of those things during there with so much already being loaded up on the tires. It's a tricky thing to catch, so difficult for sure. But yeah, this is a bit of a championship, a little bit different than PESC. The championship here is, okay, sure, a lot of pride on the line, but it's also about the community. Now, it's important to note that Matty Campbell, who joined us for 2 races, and Richard Leitz, who joined us last week, they're both busy with real-world obligations. The Daytona 24-hour is this weekend, and obviously Matt's a little busy with that.
Yeah, this will give ample opportunity for some of those, well, some of the streamers, shall we say, to be able to gain some points on Matt, especially Dan Suzuki and Gabby and Emery, all within striking distance of that man that's at the top of the standings right now, which, like you said, can't participate in this event due to those real-life obligations. Of course, Daytona 24 weekend here. I guess, but we are heading into qualifying then. And, well, it's we are waiting for those first couple of times to come through. In just a couple of moments' time, there's Jardier as he heads his way in towards turn 1.
Yeah, turn 1, again, getting it right. It's kind of an interesting breaking point because the track isn't going straight, but you are, so you kind of break from the inside of the out. It makes it a little easier to defend than perhaps I'd love it to be, because it is such a great opportunity if you get a run down the front straightaway, especially in the draft, excuse me. This is, again, the setup where we talked about Villeneuve. You mentioned one of the changes in the track after the tragic 94 incident. You can see what happens. You gotta get this car slowed down early enough to get it pointed off the corner, because that was a big slide. And again, tires become a massive part of the dynamic here at Imola. I haven't seen too many of the track temperatures throughout the practices, but probably going to be closer to Barcelona than it was Interlagos, which was super hot, I have to say.
It's still pretty warm out there. Temperature is sitting at 40 degrees on the track right now, so it's not the most ideal of conditions for the tires, but like you said, closer to Barcelona than it was Interlagos, where we saw some mid-40s in terms of track temperatures there, which is a very, very hot day indeed. So the tires can survive a little bit longer in this situation as we continue to watch Jardier as he tries to negotiate this fearsome Imola circuit. Through the Variante Alta he comes, and careful not to go too wide there on the exit of the chicane, because iRacing does have the tendency to give you a slowdown penalty if you try your luck a bit too much. Yeah, slowdown penalty there, and also coming out of Aquaman up the hill. Obviously the second apex, turn 12, it's labeled, and then into 13. It's kind of all continuous in the way you look at it from a driving perspective. You could definitely get too far out on that exit curbing and try and straight line it up the hill and get caught for that. But this is actually a decently tidy lap. The only real slide we saw was obviously coming out of Villeneuve. So other than that, pretty well kept for Jardier. We'll see how this puts him on the grids. So far, looking at the times, a bit of time to be made up, perhaps. Yeah, he's about 0.7 of a second slower than his practice time, so there's a lot of room for improvement there for Jardier. There's Emily Jones, Emery, heading her way through on one of her flying laps as well. She set the pace in practice. She did a 146.3 in practice, which was a good couple of tenths faster than everyone else that were able to lay down times in practice. So I'm expecting a good qualifying here for Emily. Yeah, and you're right about setting the pace. You can see how much harder she was attacking through Villeneuve. A lot more curb on the exit of Piratella. That's the spot for me that makes the lap. You really get misled into that corner because you want to carry more speed than you think you can, and the corner tightens going down the hill, and if you get too far out on that AstroTurf, you might as well be on a skating rink. It's very easy to lose the car, and then you get offline, downhill braking point, you're not really set up, you're still chasing it, and you don't get Aquaman right. And then again, this track links, great driver's track, links together very well, but it's quite technical, especially in a car like these Porsches, which aren't really downforce machines, and these guys are running a fixed setup as well. I think the series, it's worth noting as well, the Porsche Cup Worldwide, Carrera Cup, it's called different things in different places, but it has kind of gotten more closer to a fixed series in real life. You can change things, you know, ride height, caster camber, toe, a few things. And formerly in I think the 996s used to be able to change every individual gear. So they've brought this series more to be a better customer racing series, a better sort of spec series, but
there's a few things that you can do, and it certainly matters at a track like this. So the fact that these guys are on fixed, though, gives us a driver's aspect, as Jimmy Broadbent shows us the way around black car this week. He's darkened it up to get away from that light green.
Yeah, so there's there's Jimmer himself heading his way towards the end of the lap. We just saw Emery go to the top in terms of provisional pole position, just over 1/10 of a second ahead of Dan. So Dan has been able to put in a decent lap here as well to try to challenge Emily. Here comes Jimmer then, as he heads his way out of the final corner, coming up towards the start-finish line. He's in 6th place at the moment, but is he able to improve at all on his lap time? And I don't think he has. He's actually about half a second slower on that lap than he was on his first lap. So one more flying lap to go here for Jimmer. Still opportunity to get himself a little bit higher on the starting grid, but he's kind of through that lap array.
Best thing about this, though, is the top 6 are 6/10ths apart, so it's quite close for the All-Star race, and that should make for some great racing. Emery's got pole. Dan Suzuki, again, the guy that really impressed me at Barcelona, sitting in 2nd, and then Quick Gabby's right there knocking on the door as well, and that's a great rivalry, Emery versus Gabby. We saw it in the first race weekend. Didn't get to see it as much in race 2 because they were a little bit different positions in qualifying. Gabby said in the interview she didn't quite get her lap right, so maybe that'll materialize again this week out. But we look right now as everyone's getting toward the end. 2 minutes left. This will be pretty much the last lap for everyone, and we'll get the exact order. A couple guys down toward the back. Cyanide has improved over his practice time. Don't know how much running he got in this week, but he was doing 49s in practice. He's down already to 48s in qualifying, so that's a good sign that he's getting to terms with things out there.
Yeah, and here comes Gabby then, race winner for race number 2 at Barcelona. Can she improve her P4 qualifying position at the moment? A 1:47.169 to beat. In terms of her best time, she does the exact same time. Wow. I mean, if that's a mark of consistency, I don't know what is.
That's impressive, but you said 4th place. I just finished saying she was in 3rd, so Heike's actually slipped in there to pip her, perhaps to take the 2nd row beside her, but we'll see if that changes again. There's a few more laps to be done. I think Emery's already done. Yeah, she's gone back to pits. Suzuki looks like he's done the same, so we're getting an idea of where everyone will be. Cyanide gets a little quicker again, but it's not exactly enough to get him too far up the grid, but more improvement. As I said, he continues to get faster and faster in this session. 48.2, so he's taken a 2nd off since practice.
Yeah, he has. So it's, steady improvement for Cyanide, but well, at least he'll be not on the final row of the grid like he was last time, I believe. So it's an improvement for him as he heads his way through one of the chicanes here. We are very close to going towards the end of the qualifying session at the moment, just around about a minute left here in this session. And of course, the drivers are limited in terms of how many flying laps that they can actually do as well. They can only do 3 flying laps. Anything more, well, that simply will not count. There is Boosted Media, Will Ford from Boosted Media, not on a lap right now, considering this is his 4th lap of 3, so this one won't count for Will.
Yeah, so in lap, he's just going to drive it all the way around. This is, I'm looking forward to this. Everyone's getting a little bit closer. 2 seconds separates the whole grid, but again, it's that front 7 now, in fact, all within 6/10ths of each other. Looks like Jimmer did improve, but not in position just in time. So, yeah, this is, I think, fun. And remember, it's a full reverse grid for race 2. There's only 12 of them, so why not? It's not quite like PESC, where we've got 40 guys, and it's the top 8 that are reversed. So, yeah, in goes Will. Qualifying will time itself out. 24 seconds left, but everyone's done their laps. We've got an idea of exactly where we're going to end up on this grid, and Emery looks like she's going to have the pole.
Yeah, that does look to be the case as we wait for those final couple of seconds of qualifying to elapse. Dan is on a lap right now, but he won't be able to get to the checkered flag before the time expires. And since this is solo qualifying, well, if the time expires, that is the end of things. You won't be able to finish your qualifying lap. So the qualifying session is over. We head into the first race here this evening, and this is going to be the starting grid for that first race. Emily Jones will be on pole position for this one. We're just going to wait a couple more moments for that starting grid graphic to appear. But Matt, this is shaping up to be pretty good because we mentioned it multiple times in that little portion. The times were close. Yeah, and it's worth noting, I was just going to jump in quickly, that Matty Campbell, not here, he's had pole in the first 2 races. Despite not winning all of them, obviously got taken out in reverse grid first race and then had a great battle last week to get back up to the front, but not quite on the top step.
But yeah, this is the first pole for anyone other, and it's Emery that capitalizes, and she's probably been the closest throughout. So yeah, definitely making the most of the opportunity. And I think, what was she, 4th in the championship, 13 points back, not very far at all. So good chance for her to score some big ones today.
There we go. There's confirmation. Emily Jones, pole position. Emery with the best spot in the house for the start of this race. Dan Suzuki in 2nd place. You've got Xavier Sanchez, Heike in 3rd, and Gabriela Jagova, Quick Gabby, in that 4th spot. Row 3, Jardier and Jimmy Broadbent here this afternoon. And then you scroll further back, you get Depilio and Boosted Media as the next row further down the grid in P7 and P8. Cyanide and Game of Muscle will bring things down to P10. And Rai and Maxime will be the final row on the starting grid here today for race number 1. And we are just about to get going here for round number 3 of the Porsche Tag Heuer All-Stars event. There they are, all lined up on that starting grid. The engine notes will start to rise and we get going at Imola. Round number 3 of the All-Star Series is underway as they swarm down towards turn number 1. Emery will be challenged by Dan Suzuki coming down in towards turn number 1 for the first time, but Emery has been able to hold position. There's a bit of jostling further back. Someone's off the circuit as well. I believe Gabby has taken a bit of an off-track excursion through Tamburello. Now she has to fight with Boosted Media, but it looks like everyone, the front half of the field, got away well.
They did. Emery's clean, and behind is Dan Suzuki battling all the way down, though, and inevitable. I thought that was going to happen. They were trying to go 3 wide. Jimmy Broadbent left a lot of racing room in turn 1, the first part of Tamburello, and that pretty much left him short for coming out of turn 3 in the run. They got 3 wide. It's not going to work there. Not on this track, and that was always going to end in tears. But up front, good gap, good race. We've got everyone sort of settling in. Heike holding position on his own, and Quick Gabby's managed to make her way at least up behind. And I don't think that anyone's going to get away cleanly here. Dan Suzuki, we call him Mr. Racecraft. The potential, I think, is for Emery to break a gap. But if she makes any mistakes, these guys are all over that.
Yeah, you got to keep your wits about you in a race like this. The Jardier had a little look there towards the chicane as we see them swarm through there. All single file, of course. It's not really a complex where you want to be going too wide, although it wouldn't surprise me if something like that happens over the course of this event. Here comes Jardier, though, looking all sorts of aggressive over the back of Heike down the hill towards turn 14. So he's going to be looking to swiftly improve position because those 2 leaders are starting to get away. They're pulling a gap.
Yeah, and my eyes deceived me. I saw the black and lighter green car just as you see it now, and that's obviously Jardier. I thought that was actually Quick Gabby, so she did lose a lot of position off the start. She's down in 7th place. She's, of course, the more lime green of the 2 black and green cars, so trying to make up position. So that's not ideal because we thought maybe with her start position she might be able to challenge Emery up at the front. That is a missed braking point. Not ideal. Those gravel traps are quite deep, and that's going to make things awkward now on the run down to Villeneuve because slowly rejoining the track is Jardier, and everyone's going to be stocked up and queued behind. Gabby's actually in a good position here because they're all going to battle, and then you go into Toso, which is a hard braking point, and you can capitalize, but they're bottlenecked, and she can't find the best gap. 3 wide? I don't think so.
She was looking for it. Very tempted to just send it there, and now has to fight door to door with Jardier as they climb the hill towards Piratella. Is anyone going to back out here? Gabby's starting to lose ground by the time they get to the entry of the corner. She is going to fully back out of that situation as they have to take the single line through Piratella and now down the hill through Acqua Minerale. That's where the, well, downhill becomes uphill. A change of elevation here. Someone's off ahead. Cyanide has had a bit of a spin towards the exit of Acqua Minerale, and now he's been cycled towards the back.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that just, again, it's one thing to get your times down. It's another thing to nail consistency. I always say that to people learning iRacing. And how do I do a fast lap? How do I do a fast lap? Don't worry about your fast lap. First, get a benchmark. Hit that benchmark over and over again. And then when you suddenly do go faster, you'll be able to reference that. Otherwise, you don't know what you did, and it never really lasts. So, yeah, consistency key. But this is, shaping up. I have to give Gabby credit. There was a chance when, I believe it was Jardier, smoked the inside curve coming out of Villeneuve. She could have tried to dive on the outside and gone all the way around them, but it would have been a narrow margin, and she was a bit wise, I think, to sit where she was. She nearly made the move work, but yeah, this is a look back at all of the battles, and unfortunately, this is Cyanide. Made it up position due to everyone else being a little bit unfortunate off the start, but then gives it up all on his own.
little too much speed through Aquaminerale. Got that back end out and slid out into the kitty litter. Meanwhile, back towards the live pictures.
Well, I was just going to say, there's not too many cars, unless you have a lot of downforce, that can actually go deep on the second part of Aquaminerale. In these cars, you're better to break into turn 11 and then carry the momentum through 12. And I think Cyanide got a little too deep there, and you just lose the back because you're still turning. It's trail braking.
Very difficult indeed through Tosa. It's this little line of cars here from P4 and back to Pelio, Jardier, Gabby, all involved in this one. There's a bit of door-to-door action going on behind between Jimmy and Boosted Media, as well as they'll be absolutely level here on the entry towards Piratella. Jimmy has the inside here, has the advantage. Is there any cutback for Boosted Media? Ooh, Jimmy went very, very wide there out into the runoff of Piratella. He has to be very, very careful about that, considering the instant points. You know, these guys get 15 instant points. They'll have to take a drive-through penalty, and I think some people have been racking them up already.
Yeah, absolutely. Jimmy's got a pretty bent front end, and I think that was due to the start incident where, again, he kind of just got forced out. Ooh, another spinner in the background. Didn't catch who that was, but positions made. It looks like it's actually going to be the gamer muscle that went around. No. Yeah,
no, it was Rye. Rye.
Ah, okay,
was,
so he's a lap down. That's why I didn't see anyone dropping on my gamer screen, my timing screen.
Yeah, that's a new word for it. It's the gamer screen.
The gamer screen. I had gamer muscle in my mind still.
But yeah, right. He just lost the entry to the Variante Alta, and that's why he was pointing the wrong way in the runoff. Unfortunately,
he was respecting blue flags, getting out of the way.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very creative way of getting out of the way. You don't need to spin yourself to let people through. But I guess, you know, if you want to make a spectacle of it, sure.
Well, spectacle right now is trying to watch people come back through the field again. This front line, though, is pretty even on pace right now. And I did say the one who could perhaps get the biggest gap is the one that's doing it. Emery's up to almost 1 full second in front of Dan Suzuki. And in the last lap alone, she made up a half a second. So she's staying very consistent. 47.1, not far off her qualifying time, all things considered. I think she did a 46.7. So yeah, we're getting there now as tires start to come in. We're on 10 minutes to go. It's this lap 4, I think. So yeah, looking pretty good, but it's unfortunate the ones that got taken out at the start. Jimmy had great pace. I was hoping for a little bit more from him, and we still see him battling at the tail end of things with, I have to say, Boosted Media looking better in the race than he did in qualifying, keeping up with him.
Yeah, he really is, and not giving up the ghost just yet. I mean, we still got 10 minutes left in this first race, so still plenty of time for things to really develop and work out in the favor, perhaps, of Dan Suzuki. So it's, you know, in this situation, he has to sit behind and just apply the pressure for the moment, make sure he doesn't cook his tires too much before the end of the race, and then maybe go on the offensive a little bit later on. I don't think he has the speed advantage right now to be able to do anything about Emery, but never say never.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally possible at this point. And I said that he got, you know, he was, oh wow, he's caught her a lot, actually. I was going to say he was 9/10 back. He's just put a huge chunk of time into it. He's only now 4/10 back, and that puts him well in the draft on the run to turn 1. Not close enough for a move, as we can clearly see. He's still about 3 car lengths, but they're starting to get into their own rhythm and their own battle, and Dan's going to be seeing red, the fact that he closed so much that lap, and the draft will be key on that big front straightaway. And again, not a lot of dirty air with not a lot of aero, so he's in a good position as long as he keeps the tires alive. Continuing to talk about those. Bit of a gap as well back to third, and then Heike looks comfortable, but Yardia and DiPello are pretty comfy as well in battle, and Gabby's still just waiting for them to make a mistake enough that she can get by.
Yeah, that's the situation there down in that mid-pack. Gabby has been unable to try and find a way by on Jardia. We'll actually take a look back and see what exactly happened to Emery on that lap for her to lose so much time. And it was a mistake coming through the chicane, I believe. You can see the replay up on the top of your screen. There's the curb hop there, and the car was just very, very sluggish, didn't want to turn at all. And I think that was the vast majority of the lost time on that lap.
Yeah, a little deep on the brakes, bit too much braking pressure on the turn, and she was actually a little bit sideways before she got to the curb. So she did well to hang on to that and not overreact, let the car kind of ride it out. But yeah, you're always going to lose time at that point, not on the throttle early. And then now we're a lap ahead, but you have this big downhill braking. I want to talk a little bit about this into Ravazza, because this is a tricky one. In these cars, you're almost on the brakes, still coming out of the setup corner, turn 16. and you've got to get it slowed down so much to get that front end in. Now, downhill braking, you're always going to get deep on the nose with the compression at the bottom, but it's so easy to get wrong and lose time. So these guys all seem pretty content through there, pretty comfortable. We'll see later if there's any passing moves down that hill, because it's a daring opportunity in the PESC race.
It more requires a mistake from the driver ahead coming out of the chicane to really be able to make any of those passes happen into the revatzes. I've seen it happen before. It just needs a little help from a mistake from the driver ahead. But still looking at this battle, though, between Depilio and Jardier. They've been pretty close for a good chunk of this race already, and Depilio's been able to hold on to that P4 position for the moment. But Jardier has been one of those drivers in the field that's always been sort of showing the nose coming down into some of these corners. Doesn't do so that time into Tosa, but I have to wonder how long he's going to stay waiting patiently in line.
Yeah, someone's got to make a move sooner or later. Gabby's being very patient as well, and again, the narrowness of the track. We saw that mistake earlier from Jardier leaving Villeneuve. It was a chance that she might have been able to dive on any other circuit where you can go 3 wide, but it's just so tricky and twisty here at Imola. So she's an opportunity perhaps in the next few laps. She's all over the back of Jardier now. She definitely has pace, and it looks like she's definitely being held up. So tires maybe not the factor, but rather just waiting to get by. Love to get some points again without Matt Campbell here this weekend. This could really shape the championship for the rest of the year, and Emery is certainly looking in the best position. She's made up for that lost time from the mistake in the chicane, so back to a second ahead. And yeah, of course, I mentioned Matt Campbell's not here. And Richard Least as well, I should say. Mr. Richard Least. We've had a couple of pros join us, and we will have more during the course of the season, but the Daytona 24-hour actually starts sometime very soon, and will run over the next 24 hours as the race indicates. So they're busy with real life obligations. I don't think they would want to do a stint in the sim and then get in the real car. They might be a little too tired for that.
Yeah, I mean, I know some of the real-world drivers actually, try to get as much sim racing done in between sessions as possible as well, if they have a setup in their motorhome or something. But yeah, it's too much commitment for one weekend, I suppose, for the Porsche factory drivers. We wish them the best of luck in their efforts at the Daytona 24 to bring Porsche some success in that particular race. But we've still got a race on here, and Gabby, again, she's kind of caught in that awkward spot of being quick enough to lock onto the back of Jardier, but not quite getting the opportunity she needs to try and make any sort of fight out of this.
Yeah, not enough at all. Pretty stable running at this point in time. I think 3 races into the season, people are coming to terms with this 911 Cup car just in time for us to switch to the Cayman, of course. But also figuring each other out in terms of racecraft, and it's a little more tidy today than we've seen in the other races, which is great, but it does mean we're not going to see any unpredictability in moves. Gabby's still just snaking around behind Jardier, trying to present herself and make him, or force him into a mistake rather, but he's looking pretty tidy to try and make a move as well onto, Depilio in front. And I should point him out, by the way. Probably the best position we've seen him in terms of consistent lap times, so great opportunity for him to score some more points as well.
Yeah, it is. He hasn't really had the best of luck in the opening couple of rounds of this season, hasn't really been able to show us what he's made of. I think he's just been gone caught up in other people's incidents. He almost made one himself there with that big old slide coming out of the final corner, and that's a lot of lost momentum here, because here comes Jardier then across the start-finish line, looking to drive his left-hand side. That gives him the inside to the first apex of Tamburello. Depilio is continuing to lose ground here as they head on the entry. Here comes Gabby as well. Opportunistic move, locks up the brake, and well, Depilio is able to get the position back, but what a committed move there from Gabby. Yeah,
and well done to Depilio for being able to spot that and leave a gap and sneak back through behind her, because that easily could have been him turning in as normal and her just careening into the side of him. So smart play to stay out of that. And Gabby, yeah, you can tell now she's getting a little bit impatient. I think maybe wanted to try and follow the car in front through. It's tempting, but you've got a chicane, so it's always tricky because you're never really going to get the inside line. This is it's just one of those things you kind of have to wait it out and hope that they don't get a good run. Maybe had a better chance to get it into Villeneuve, get the move done into Villeneuve as we look back at number 64, the move. And watch this. Here we go. This is going to be Gabby. He sees it. He's actually left room. Smart. That's smart driving. Good heads up. You can see him starting to turn in and nearly put himself on the grass to avoid it, but gets through.
there's awesome racecraft there, because so many drivers would just assume the one is heading to the inside and turn into the corner normally to try and follow in behind, not expecting the second car to try and go for an absolute dive down the inside. So fantastic racecraft there from Depilio to just be aware of his situation and avoid what would have been a pretty ugly incident in towards turn number 1. I think we might get round 2 in just a couple of moments' time, because Gabby is now in striking distance.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, wow, that's been the whole race, hasn't it? Gabby in striking distance.
Yeah.
But it highlights Imola. I mean, we talk about Barcelona. Yeah, this might be the run. She might have it here. We talk about Barcelona not being known for its passing, but it's a wider circuit, so you get a little more opportunity when people make mistakes. Here at Imola, it's a bit narrow. The front straight looks pretty wide on this camera, but it is, of course. It's where the grid is. It's once you get into the corners, it gets tricky, and this time I think the move's done easily enough. Doesn't need to lock the brakes. No Hail Mary, so position made for Gabby. 2 lost over 2 laps for Depilio, but again, this is an improvement. He's like in the fight this time. We haven't seen that a lot from him this season, so it's great to see that 64 car giving a bit of a battle.
Yeah, maybe the pressure got to him a little bit there in that situation, because he had never been in that position before in this series. So, you know, trying to defend from a couple of faster drivers behind, of course, it is possible, but not always a reality for those drivers. And he made the same mistake coming out of the final corner as he did that allowed Jardier to get past. So it's, again, oversteer coming out of the final corner has lost Depilio 2 spots in the course of 2 laps.
Yeah, the long straight, slow in, fast out. Emphasis on the exit, which I think in fairness, iRacing has more emphasis on the exit as it is, given the way the tire dynamic works. So it's very easy to overdo it, overheat the tire, and you just cook it, and that run down to turn 1 is about the worst place for that to happen at this circuit. So yeah, whether that's a case of him over battling and not being used to it, like you say, the inexperience of being at the front so far in the series and the tires getting away from him, or just simple mistakes, either way, it results in 2 positions lost. So Emery, however, continues to put a gap down. It's 1.4 seconds back to Dan Suzuki in second, and then a further second back behind that is Heike, who's held on to 3rd position quite well, I have to say, due in part to the fact that there's been quite a battle behind.
So we are 1 minute to go in this race. That means this will be the start of the flying lap as we ride on board, on the Vodafone onboard with Heike. But now, as we head in towards turn number 1, I mean, Heike's done a good job on that last lap to, again, close the gap. I think he's closed about 0.2 of a second every lap for about 2 laps. So he's working at this gap, but I think it's going to be a little, well, too little, too late for him.
Again, though, reverse grid for the second race should make things very interesting, because this front group is certainly quick, but they will have more obstacles, shall we say, in front of them. If some of the back guys keep it together off the start, we could see some really interesting racecraft, or lack thereof, perhaps even, to see these guys get to the front. So it'll be a lot of fun, and a second opportunity. Again, Gabby back up to 5th. She started in 4th, but definitely lost some time behind, so maybe she'll be someone to watch in that race. She may not be done, though. Last lap into Piratella, very tricky to get it done, because you carry so much speed into that corner. So shows the nose, but it's never going to work. Now she needs to rely on Jardier to make a mistake either in or out of the chicane, and she might get a chance toward the line.
Oh yeah, Gabby's applying the pressure to the rear bumper of that 911 Cup car ahead of her. See, she's angling towards the inside of the Variante Alta as well. Is there going to be a lunge a little too far back? And Gabby's overcommitted. She has to go across the grass, so that'll be a slowdown penalty, and it will be a lost position to Depilio as well, as she'll have to serve that one as Depilio's closing in on her very, very quickly indeed. But back towards the front of the field, Emery heads her way through the final corner after a strong and consistent race to win race number 1 here at Imola in the Porsche Tag Heuer All-Stars event. Checkered flag is out. Emery wins it. Dan Suzuki second, and Heike finishes in 3rd. And Gabby actually holds on to that position from Depilio coming across the start-finish line. So it does look like she got that slowdown penalty served in time. Otherwise, she would have a post-race penalty be applied. But interesting race 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Great race 1. I don't know that I agree with Gabby's mentality to try and make that move there. I think she was right to show the nose, but I would have ducked back in and taken the normal braking line at that point and hoped for Jardier to make a mistake. I mean, getting it into that chicane, you've got to be well and truly wheel to wheel, not even to the B pillar, to make that work, because it's just so tight and it obviously cuts back. So yeah, bit of ambitious, I think. I don't blame her for trying, but probably not the spot for it.
So there's the unofficial race results. Emery wins by 1.8 seconds over Dan Suzuki. Heike with a podium finish at the end there. We've got Jardier in 4th. Gabby wasn't able to improve position on that final lap. She resides in 5th, but she gets away with one as far as the slowdown penalty is concerned. She was able to save it and finish ahead of D'Apelio. Then you've got Jimmy Broadbent 7th, Game Muscle in 8th, Busabidi in 9th, and then you have the bottom end of the field here, Maxime in P11, and Rai will be in 12th. But that does mean, though, however, that Rai will start pole position for race number 2.
Yeah, absolutely. That reverse grid's going to be something to watch. I think it's always a lot of fun. It's been dramatic a few times. Matty Campbell got caught out in it, and last week it was a little more neat and tidy. I think people realize that you've got to be careful coming through the field. We'll see who can do it best. Gabby, certainly someone to watch. She highlights, I think, a lot of the issues with Imola. Great driver's track, fantastic facility, great racetrack, but very tricky to overtake. So we'll see who can get it done. I think you nailed it when you said it really does depend on a lot of mistakes to get that momentum gain and then make the move.
Yeah, I definitely think that. But heading into this race 2 now, of course, full reverse grid. Rai starts pole position, Maxime starts 2nd place, and on row number 2 we got Cyanide and Boosted Media. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, if it's a full reverse grid, Rai should also start pole with a lap in hand, because he ended up a lap down that race. Are we going to do that maybe? Because that would be interesting. No, look, unfortunately he had a spin early on and then spun to, I'm saying he was being polite. He was getting out of the way of the blue flags, okay? We'll just give that one to him, benefit of the doubt. I don't know where my thoughts are, because the back guys, again, we said it was only 2 seconds in qualifying, which is pretty close for this grid. The front 6 or 7 rather were 6/10, so expect them to be a freight train coming through. But the back guys it wasn't so much the speed that was the difference, it was the inconsistency. So if you're coming through, you got to be very careful and aware of that. If someone spins in front, or if they're just not as comfortable in the car around the circuit, you've got to tread lightly. And that's to me the bigger thing. I'm not looking to make up 6 positions off the start. I'm looking to survive it. Maybe lap 2, 3, when it starts to stabilize, you'll see the people start to work their way through.
Do you think, though, this will be Jimmy Broadbent's first win in this series? Remember, at the end of Barcelona, completely bottled it, which is what I called it. And apparently he had we shouldn't bottle it this time or something like that in his title. And I wasn't aware of that, so that's a fun coincidence. But yeah, he's in a pretty good position. In practice times, he was multiple tenths of a second faster than the drivers ahead of him. He'll have some pressure from behind, but this is another good opportunity for Jimmy. Yeah, absolutely. He was so close in Barcelona. And it was still a great race on his part. Unfortunately, I think he finished 3rd in the end, but unfortunately lost it a bit under braking and gave up some spots. But this is a sneak peek forward of our PESC drivers getting in and getting a warm-up done, getting ready for the big race today, round number 3. And that'll, of course, be coming up just after this all-star race. I know a few of them are joining the Zoom call now and getting comfortable in their sim rigs. But we get ready for race number 2, the reverse grid, as you say. And maybe Jimmy Broadbent is one to watch. The livery change. Maybe it's a whole different mentality. Let's not bottle it. New livery. Maybe he thought being in the whiter car, the lighter colored, it was more attractive for people. But there is, of course, Sebastian Job, top right, Mitchell de Jong, top left, and a couple different guys there. Martin Kronka, bottom left corner, and all getting ready to jump in this afternoon. Yep, I believe that's Mac Backham. Mac Backham, sorry. Who did I say? There we go. Yeah, my bad. I mean, that is Mac Backham. We do so few live events here on sim racing that it's going to take some time to get used to the driver's faces. No, and I knew that. I just said the wrong name, because obviously he's sitting in the Coanda house. As you can see, there's a number of sims in that room. So is Mitchell de Jong, for that matter. In fact, so I'm sure if you look in the background, you can figure out who's on what sim rig. But Josh Rogers will be playing from that same spot as well. So kind of a cool facility for them. Yeah, absolutely. Of course, you know, when we talk about Coanda and the whole team house situation, the first team house in sim racing is what I like to call it. Of course, it's more popular in other esports like Counter-Strike, League of Legends, Overwatch, whatever, you name it, insert esport here. But we still have another round, another race of this All-Stars event to go before we get to the professional sim drivers. We got about a minute and a half left here in the 5-minute warm-up that we have in between the sessions. I'm just having a look to see what sort of weather conditions we have here. It's not changed too much. Of course, the cloud cover is coming and going, so that might cause a couple of degrees in fluctuation in terms of track temperature, but nothing that these drivers should be worried about here. So it's going to stay pretty consistent throughout both races. Yeah, absolutely, which is good. You were right to point out, I do see it on the timing screen, 40 degrees Celsius, so still quite warm.
Speaking again, we're on a fixed setup for the All-Star race, but speaking again about temperatures and tires, and the hotter it gets, the more emphasis on grip there is, which puts less, I guess, versatility in a setup. At this track, however, I've been talking to a few of the PESC guys, and it's more about actually the ride height and getting the car set for the curbs, because there's more time to gain on the curbs than there is in setting the car for the tires, and you just drive to the tire after that rather than trying to make a setup that lets you push harder. So yeah, watch the curb hunters, as I'll call it later, because that's going to be the key to the good lap around here for the pro guys. And you can see, I mean, even as we watch quick Gabby go around in the warm-up, how much curb she's taking, and it's such a tight and twisty track. You've got to make it as wide as you possibly can.
Yeah, you really have to. A couple of seconds left in warm-up then before we have to prepare our starting grid for race number 2 here at Imola for the Porsche Tag Heuer All-Stars event. So checkered flag out there in warm-up, and we'll get race 2 started in just a good couple of moments' time. Remember, this is a reverse grid based on the results of race number 1. So there we go. There's Rye starting pole position for this one. Maxime on that first row as well. Cyanide starts in 3rd with Will Ford from Boosted Media in 4th. Row 3 is Gamer Muscle and Jimmy Broadbent. Looking back there, you got DePilio, Gabby, Jadier, and Heike bringing things down to P10. Dan Suzuki and Emery will be the final row on the starting grid here. So 12 cars taking themselves to the starting grid, and a lot of work for Dan Suzuki and Emery to do in this event if they want to get back to the pointy end of the field. There they are, all lined up, ready and waiting for the green light to show and to go racing here for race 2 at Imola. Here we go then. We get things started with green flag racing here, and Maxime has gotten an awful start from the front row as she gets swallowed up by the pack on the way in towards turn number 1. Multiple positions lost already for Maxime. That has gone absolutely horribly for her. Gamer Muscle's able to hold on in the front of this huge gaggle in the mid-pack here. But what an awful start for Maxime. That's one of those things you really need to nail in these cars. Otherwise, you're just going to get swallowed up like she has done.
Great start from Jimmy this time, though. Didn't want to be as friendly, kept the line to himself, didn't get caught out, I suppose, on the exit. Great run, gets by Boosted Media, heading into Villeneuve, and now it's Gabby trying to do the same as Rye got away clean. I have to say his livery looks excellent. We didn't see much of it in the first race, but perhaps he'll have a better go of it this time around. It's, again, pretty clean, I have to say, off the start. It's really about keeping the nose out of it, and Jimmy is not done. He wants more from this. Boosted Media has come back at him up the hill. That's going to force him wide, and this gets tricky. Running down the hill into Aqua Minerale, too wide, at a very tricky double apex braking point, and I have to give them all credit. They're all through.
Yeah, they are all keeping on the grey stuff, which is what we absolutely love to see from the drivers, as Dan Suzuki is going to have to defend here coming into the chicane, and there's been a bit of an incident ahead. Gamer Muscle is around, and I think that was contact with Jimmy, as Gamer Muscle's come off worse there, and he loses a couple of spots.
Yeah, I think Jimmy got into the backside of him just on the entrance, and unfortunately maybe got a little bit too deep on the brakes, so it's going to unfortunately make things a little bit worse, as you say, for Gamer Muscle. He did rejoin. He still had a Yardier at this point, but you're right, went backwards from where Jimmy is, who's now up to 3rd place. So getting the elbows out, for better or for worse, it's going to leave him up on 3rd in the grid. How much damage did he take? Yet to be determined, but the battle at the front, Rye's getting away. This is clean. I have to give them credit. Both he and Cyanide taking the most, or making the most of this opportunity and not making mistakes early while everyone else battles. That's the best thing they can do to try and get themselves a result. But Jimmy will be on the hunt. We saw how quick he was in qualifying. Didn't translate in the first race. He'll be, like you say, looking for his first win.
This is what the reverse grid is meant to be for. 2 drivers that are not used to being at the very front of these races are. But like you said, Jimmy is closing them down at a rate of knots. So, you know, we'll have to keep an eye on that over the next couple of laps to see how much progress Jimmy can actually make. But Jimmy also has Dan and Gabby in tow here, so it'll soon be an almighty scrap for those podium positions.
Up the hill again. Not the highest elevation of the lap, but close to it. Of course, that's when we head into the chicane at Verena Alta. We go up, down, and up again. There's a fantastic onboard of actually Ayrton Senna unfortunately, during that tragic weekend, but one of his final laps where it just flows the car so beautifully through this circuit. And yeah, Porsche, the sound, the way they drive it would be a lot of fun, but again, very technical and tricky at the same time, and everyone nailing the chicane. Again, all about curves. Look how much curve Gabby took that time. Car, I think, was, although only 2 wheels hit the curb, I think 4 wheels off the ground on the exit.
Yeah, aggressive with the curbs there is one word for it. And, well, that's simply what you have to do sometimes to try and extract as much lap time as possible. I'm seeing Gamer Muscle out into the gravel through the final couple of corners as we ride on board with P2 man Cyanide as he tries to use all the slipstream possible off the back of Rye there. Still about 7/10 of a second between them, so I don't think Cyanide's been able to make all that much progress because he has to look behind. He has to defend from Jimmy. Coming into turn 1, Jimmy goes the long way around for the first apex. If he can keep it in here, he has the advantage for the second apex, and he's through. Here comes Dan as well. Opportunistic move, follows through on Jimmy's tire tracks, and Cyanide loses 2, now maybe even 3 spots in the space of a sector.
Yeah, that's not what we were hoping for from him. Again, he didn't quite have a good racecraft, but yeah, I think he really did not want to get into the side of Gabby, but had a little bit too much speed on and got into the brakes mid-corner, I think, and just pirouetted the car. So yeah, Cyanide did well to stick up there at the front, but we said he needs to make no mistakes to take advantage of this reverse grid. And unfortunately, once the pressure came of everyone arriving, and he does exactly that. But Rye is still looking very good, almost still a full second to Jimmy. It may not yield a victory for him, but it certainly could be a decent result, maybe even top 5, depending on how much battling goes on behind. He needs to, again, it's an opportunity. Reverse grid, you're at the front. You know they're going to be maybe faster than you in coming through, but they've got their own things to worry about. You just need to drive your race, and so far he's done an excellent job of that.
Yep, he really, really has. And now this is the portion of the race where everything just starts to close up for the race lead as those faster drivers have been able to work through the field, be it through passes or via incidents from drivers that started higher up on the grid. So time is limited here for Jimmy. If he can get past Rye and hope that putting Rye between himself and some of the faster drivers allows him to get away somewhat at the very front of the field, then that'll be the buffer zone that he needs to try and win this race. But if everyone's able to get through quickly on Rye, then I don't rate his chances.
Yeah, again, it's about holding on, and he lost actually 7/10 that lap, and Jimmy's going to get down the inside. Poor exit out of the final corner for Rye, but ooh, and this is exactly it. Same thing we saw with Cyanide. Now that the pressure's on, he's letting it get to him. He's better to, even if he has to concede a position or two, just keep things moving forward, because his best chance was every battle, and unfortunately everyone else goes right by. He needed those people to keep battling and him hold position while it happened. He's kind of lost, what, 5 spots in the space of 4 corners. Not ideal. Broadbent still leads. Dan Suzuki just behind.
Oh,
Emery has spun. Emily Jones! And that is a car up and over multiple times. Not a situation that Heike would have wanted him to be in. Arrived on the scene as Emery was closing down on the track he had available to him.
Yeah, Emery trying to go the long way around at Tosa. I think she was tagged around by Jardier, I believe, as I think he came up in the middle of the corner and just had a little bit of contact with Emery's left rear wheel arch that spun her into the path of Heike, and there's nothing really Heike could have done about that. He goes somersaulting out into the grass. But there's the look at the very front of the field. We'll get ourselves the replay of the pass for the race lead. So this is Jimmy Broadbent's move on Rye to get to the very front of the field. There's a little bit of argy-bargy between them, shall we say. Just a tiny bit maybe there that sent Rye out into the gravel, and from then on he's just looking backwards.
Yeah, it was just a freight train at that point. Didn't quite hold that far enough to see exactly the replay with Emery, but I'm sure we'll get a glance at that in a moment. Obviously, that happened into Tosa, and championship leader potentially coming out of this weekend with the absence of Maddie Campbell, obviously. So there was a real chance for her to capitalize, and that might be out the window. Whereas Dan Suzuki, he is making the most of it yet again. Good defending from Jimmy. I mentioned this, despite that it's a long run down to turn 1, the fact that you're still kind of braking across the circuit as there's a bit of a kink in the braking point, you can defend it quite well if you've just got enough in the brakes. So Jimmy does exactly that, holds the inside line, and Gabby's again the one that's sitting waiting for a mistake or looking to capitalize on other people's battles.
Yeah, looking to the inside, Jimmy covers it off on the way through Tosa. So Jimmy is putting in a mega defensive effort here to keep Dan behind, to keep Gabby in that train as well. So this has to be... Well, the thing is for Jimmy now, he has to put in this level of a defensive effort for another 13.5 minutes. And that is a very, very tough prospect.
Yeah, I'm sure people watching his stream right now will notice he's probably not being as entertaining and talkative. He's probably dead focused on trying to get this result. So, yeah, big battle. His best opportunity, again, though, is if he can defend and he can back up Dan Suzuki, Gabby becomes almost an ally in the battle because she'll take the opportunity, and if they start battling, it's a gap that may not last, but if he gets a gap for one lap of a couple of tenths, they then have to close that down again. And if he does it again, it's just rinse and repeat. He needs to keep creating those gaps for himself while not making too many mistakes. So, so far, that's worked out. We'll see if he gets a run down to turn 1, because this will be the opportunity.
Yep, this will be it. As long as Dan can get a good run out of this final corner, he might be able to make it a door-to-door battle again into turn 1. You see Heike's at the top of the standings right now. He'll swiftly drop down because he took the toe back to pit lane. That puts him ahead of everyone else. But we actually do have a replay of Emery's little incident coming out of Tosa as that turn 1 battle, that's the P1 battle, excuse me, the rain's the way it is. Yeah, Jardier on the inside just came up a little bit and then bang. That's a roll and a half for... Well, actually, we aren't able to get the official count there. We didn't see it run all the way through.
I think it was close to 5 or 6 when I saw the other angle. He was still rolling up the hill, believe it or not, but not on the tires, unfortunately. So, yeah, I think actually looking at that replay, Emily was on the outside, and she wanted to hold it around the outside, but I think she pinched the line a little bit too much and didn't really leave a lot of room. So kind of her own doing and her undoing, if you will, because now she's well down in the order at 10th position, and she's going to have quite a bit of damage. Not so much from the initial spin, but certainly being smoked, if you will, by, unfortunately, Heike, who got the worst of it.
Yeah, not a lot Heike could have done. In fact, I think Emery rolled forward a little bit there, which doesn't help. I don't think it would have changed the outcome of the incident, but still, Heike's gonna feel pretty bad about that one. It was an incident that was not his doing. He was just trying his best to try and avoid everything that was going on ahead of him, and sometimes you just pick the wrong direction. Yeah,
it's difficult in a hairpin, and it happens in front of you depending on what you're focused on, your braking point, looking ahead. It's tricky to set that one up. But speaking of setups, we'll see if Dan Suzuki can get a good run out of the final corner on to Jimmy Broadbent. Didn't take quite as much curve, but it looked pretty smooth. Jimmy, not too much wiggling going on, so it might be steady as she goes down the front straight. The draft will come into effect. I think he's going to be close enough to show the nose, but we've seen Jimmy very smartly hold the inside and defend this already, and he'll do the same now.
Yeah, here we go. A little game of chicken on the brakes in towards turn 1. Of course, you know, each driver wants to outbrake the other, but sometimes that's just a recipe for disaster if you overdo it. Good run out of Tamburello for Dan, though. He might be able to make this happen into Villeneuve around the outside for the first apex, and Jimmy shuts the door for the second apex. A big slide, though, from Dan, and here comes Gabby now. With that mistake from Dan, is able to challenge around the outside at Tosa. Jardier looking to the inside to try and get himself a podium spot as well. So that's kind of triggered all these battles further deeper in this pack, and allows Jimmy a little bit of breathing room as Jardier and Gabby get so close on the way into Piratella. Gabby on the outside has to go way out into the runoff to try and carry the speed, but Jardier now has the advantage in towards Aqua Minerale. Is he going to pinch her on the inside? Not quite somehow. Oh! Front to rear contact, and Jardier spins, and Gabby also pointing the wrong direction.
And that's... Unfortunately, they did very well to get through the first apex, but what you need to realize when that happens is Gabby gets so much curb, and that corner comes, turn 12, the second part of that complex comes at you so quickly. She just didn't leave herself enough room, unfortunately, or didn't have enough room coming off the curb to get the braking done in time, and yeah, just unfortunate incident, but yeah, nothing really she could have done to get more braking in that situation other than run way wide herself, and then it's going to be an incident all on her own. So 2 cars out well, not out, but out of this battle for the lead very quickly. Jimmy's going to get a breath from that, but it does mean he doesn't have anyone battling with Dan Suzuki. He does get a gap from that previous battle, but now it will be just them, gloves off to the finish.
Here's the Vodafone onboard then. Gabby, oh, well, to be fair, Charlie doesn't quite shut the door, and then they just get too close for comfort on the way in towards the next right-hander.
And you're absolutely right. He doesn't shut the door. There was great racing room, but the car is so unstable over the curbs on the first apex that she can't get the proper braking pressure. She has to get off the brakes a little bit, let the car settle, and then get back on it. And she just didn't have enough room to do that. Had Jardier not been that close in front of her, she probably still would have made the corner. It wouldn't have been the best run out of it, but it's just not enough space for both cars in that situation, with one on the normal braking line and one trying to salvage braking, if you will.
Yeah, just an unfortunate incident between the two of them, but again, you're going to have to give each other a little bit more room front to rear coming up towards turn 10. But back to this battle at the very front, though. Battle for P1, and you called it correctly, Matt. This is now just between the two of them. There are no outside influences in this one, no third parties to be concerned about, so Dan Suzuki can focus on the single task at hand, and that is to try and get past that 00 car of Jimmy Broadbent. He's very quick indeed, in clear air especially, but Jimmy's been able to defend so well so far. He needs to do so again into Variante Alta, and he's able to keep himself ahead. And Dan, well, he can't afford to get frustrated now behind the wheel of that Porsche.
And there's two mindsets Jimmy needs to have. One is he knows he can be a little bit more defensive and aggressive in doing so, because there's no one to have an influence on Dan, so not only does he need to, but if he loses one position, it's just one. There's not a train of cars to go by. However, if they get too much going on, suddenly that pack is going to slowly close up on them again, and it's almost, does he settle for second? I don't think he will, but you have to, how much do you defend? How much do you give up in terms of real estate? And what's the result worth in terms of being on the podium, or maybe getting, Diplio back up there? Rai, who's still in third, I have to say, looking fantastically consistent considering he had a horrible opening race. And again, they're going to go wheel to wheel, but Jimmy's nailing it. That's exactly what you need to do at Imola. Hold the inside out of the kink, force this car behind to go wider, and then even though you're a little bit slower and you sacrificed your entrance into turn 1, 2, and 3 come at you and you get the same run, but this time all the way into Villeneuve, it's going to be very tough for Jimmy to hold it because he can't get the same amount of braking. Does just barely. Great racing room, and that was brave of him to turn in and know that Dan was going to be respectful of him doing so.
Yeah, Dan has tried that before through Villeneuve as well. Getting the good run out of Tamburello, look to the outside of the first apex of Villeneuve. Jimmy shut the door 2 times previous. He wasn't able to that time, but still had the speed around the outside of that second apex to be able to hold on. This is a fantastic battle between these two, and now Dan looking into Aqua Minerale, not usually an overtaking spot coming through here. We've got about 6.5 minutes left to go in this race. Just a handful of laps here for Jimmy to hold on and score his first race win in this Porsche Tag Heuer All-Stars Series for 2021. Good run coming out of the Variante Alta as well. Just extends the gap slightly on the way down into the Revatas.
Yeah, Jimmy looking pretty good, and if you would want someone in this series behind you right now, Dan is such a great battler. Again, I think he's been so clean in his racing and very consistent in doing so in these battles. So Jimmy should be aware of the fact that he's got a great adversary in this fight and doesn't need to worry too much about contact. I say that, it can always happen, but this should be a great battle all the way through. 5 to go now in terms of minutes, not laps, and Jimmy will be very happy to see that time continuing to fall off the clock as quickly as it does. This is starting to just look like standard formation at this point. A little bit further alongside, though, is Dan Suzuki this time. Can he hold the outside? No, not a chance.
Oh, this is brilliant. That's 3 times in a row, I believe now. They've gone absolutely door-to-door into Tamburello, and they've come out of it unscathed. But you're quite right, because Dan, he made some, better progress that time around. He was able to stay alongside a little bit more. So I think he needs a bit more of an overlap coming down in towards Tamburello, and that move might just happen for him. But Jimmy's driving exemplarily at the moment. He's doing very, very well. You
can tell he's feeling the pressure a little more, though, because that car is just a bit more unstable on brakes. He's getting it a little deeper, bit of an earlier entry, wider exit off of Tosa, and meanwhile Dan's just trying to set things up, straighter line up the hill. He's trying to keep the car as neat and tidy as possible so he gets clean runs. He's focusing on exit, and again, that comes into the tire battle where Jimmy's going to go through a lot more tire trying to drive that way. So he absolutely has driven a great race, but the styles between the two could play into this as we get to the sharp end.
4 minutes and 30 seconds remaining as they bounce up over the curbs through Variante Alta and stand a little bit closer this time coming into the Revatas. We have seen moves down into here before in a couple of other races I've done here at Imola, but no opportunity this time for Dan, as there's a mistake, there's a missed apex, but Jimmy and Dan is able to go side by side. There's contact. Jimmy slides through the corner and able to hold it together, but Dan's through to the race lead.
Yeah, tricky camera angle, because I didn't quite see if maybe Dan got understeer into the corner or if Jimmy turned in a bit early, but either way, they go door to door, about as square and even as possible, so both cars keep it forward. Jimmy does lose out of the position, though, and with that contact, not enough momentum to try and do a cut back or get a run down to turn one himself. Still enough of a gap behind, though, and Rye is doing a phenomenal job of holding on to third, I have to say. He drove exactly the race we said he should do on the reverse grid. He wasn't a pace setter in qualifying, had an unfortunate incident in race number 1, but he just kept it consistent this time around, and he still may get a podium. He's in a battle right now with Deplio, but this up front is, yeah, Jimmy's got enough of a gap. He should be able to hold on to at least second place.
Yeah, he should do. It's a decent gap. It's a decent gap all the way back to Rye, so there's a very, very good buffer zone here for Jimmy. I mean, if he can keep himself there or thereabouts as far as the race lead is concerned, maybe he'll have a chance at the end with a big old slipstream and maybe helped by a mistake from Dan. But let's have a look at the replay then of that incident into the final couple of turns. Just a slight missed apex there through turn 14 for Jimmy. There's the dooring through the final corner, and that just goes to show how one mistake can mean everything.
Love that 360 cam. Unfortunately, it doesn't let me quite see exactly the positioning of the car to the apex, but yeah, Jimmy basically got late on the brakes and got deep, gave the opportunity to Dan. So still holding on, though. Might be a chance if Dan somehow makes a mistake, but 2 minutes and 30 left. This should be the second, or the penultimate, I guess is the correct terminology, the second last lap this time by, so running out of time to do it, but still in a position for another podium. Last time it was third, this time second. Jimmy making progress. Quick Gabby in 7th, and Emery has made it back to 5th. So in the battle between those two, and in terms of championship picture, Dan Suzuki should come out the leader if he wins this race in the overall, but those two, both of them had a great opportunity and got caught up in a few battles that didn't go their way.
Yeah, so unfortunate for the couple of those front runners in the championship. Here's the battle for third, though, for the final podium position. Rye's done so well this race. The consistency at the front's been pretty good for him. But now Tapilio's looking to try and gain his podium position. Looking all over the place, coming through Tamburello, left, right, whatever. But still no progress being made by Tapilio, as he has to stay in line now through turn 5 and 6. Maybe get a good run out of here and dive to the inside at the hairpin. That might be the option, and it is the option. And Tapilio's going to go for big wide door open for that number 64 to stick his nose in there, but not able to get the overlap.
Not quite. Rye's driving an exceptional race too, I have to say. Exactly what he needed to do. Bit more nose this time up the hill into Piratella, but again, not really a passing opportunity. It's enough to maybe unsettle or put pressure on the man in front down the hill. Same thing, it's too tight between the two apexes. I've seen it done, but it's usually relying on the man in front to be very, very respectful and aware. But this battle is allowing very slowly Pikey, who's a lap down, to get into it. I'm sure he'll back out and not stay as an interference in this. So this will be good to watch. I was going to say, but Rise outbraked himself, and that might just give it up there. Battle might be over, and yeah, enough of a nose down the hill. Pretty much done at this point. So we'll see if he can hold on, maybe get a say back into it. But either way, good result for Rye.
Yeah, yeah, he's gonna definitely have to continue to save that slowdown penalty as a result of cutting the chicane, but we're
did he get to the final lap now? I think he might have still had 2 on the curb.
Possibly. We'll just have to wait and see. He's not losing too much time to Tapilio. He's still at the very end of the slipstream right now. But 10 seconds left remaining in the session then, and this is the final lap we're on right now. Jimmy, second place. I don't think he quite has the legs to be able to get up and onto the back of Dan Suzuki to be able to challenge him for the final lap of this race. We would love to see a battle for the race lead, but unfortunately I don't think it's going to happen through Tosa. Dan Suzuki's been pretty consistent through here, no mistakes at all. And as long as he keeps on the grey stuff, he'll be able to come across the line to win here in race number 2 at Imola for the Porsche Tag Heuer All-Stars event. Everyone else is relatively strung out through the field. Of course, you still have that battle for P3 between Tapilio and Rye. So Rye is trying to recover after that little off-track excursion that he made through Variante Alta. But we'll have to wait and see if he gets anything done by the end of this lap. So 1 sector to go then. Dan Suzuki still leads by 6.5 tenths of a second over Jimmy Broadbent as they head into the Variante Alta for the final time. A lot of curb there taken by Jimmy. You know he's trying to drive the wheels off of that thing, but I think it's going to be too little too late for him. Dan Suzuki only has 2 more corners to go, and he will be the winner here today. So has to be clean through here, maybe not drive as aggressively as he has been doing, just to make sure that there are no errors here, especially on the exit of this final corner, and he's clean to the line. What a race at the very front of the field. Dan Suzuki wins race 2 here at Imola in the Porsche Tag Heuer All-Stars event. Jimmy Broadbent, less than a second behind, stands on that second step of the podium.
Yeah, and DePilio home in 3rd, and Raya holds on. I mean, very well driven. Exactly the race he needed. Unfortunately, Sinai couldn't replicate that because he was in a good position after lap 1 and 2 even. I think it was lap 3 the incident came. So unfortunate for him, but yeah, very good race at the front. That was a great battle to watch between Dan Suzuki and Jimmy Broadbent. The new livery, not bottling it, maybe looking better. Maybe that's the step forward.
Look, he was a relatively certain P2 last time out, but obviously he lost the positions in the final corner. But yeah, it is a P2 for Jimmy Broadbent. Dan Suzuki, though, fantastic as ever in this series. You know, one of those top drivers gaining a healthy amount of points here in race 2. And we also see DePilio in P3 as well. So fantastic event for him. Same with Rye as well, benefiting from the full reverse grids, able to bring it home in P4 without losing too many positions. Emery finishes in 5th with a decent couple of points added to her tally. Gabby in 6th, Wilford from Boosted Media 7th, Jardier 8th, Sinai in 9th, and Gamer Muscle with a late race spin, I believe it was, gets filed back into that 10th spot. And then those last 2 drivers, Maxime and Heike, will bring things down to P number 12 in the official order here today. So then, that's going to be the racing done. But, well, we'll just get our interviews here in just a couple of moments, Matt. But again, brilliant racing in the All-Stars event. You know, this seems to be a theme now for this season. It's, you know, despite these drivers perhaps not being as skilled as some of the professional sim drivers that you'll be seeing a little bit later on, they can still be giving an absolutely amazing show. Yeah, and they absolutely understand racing. I mean, you can see the setups. They're trying to, you know, get good drives off corners, the undercuts, good racing room between them. You may even say that might be cleaner than the PESC race today with 40 cars and a tight circuit and some of the driving standards of aggression we've seen. That might have been actually the cleanest race we're going to see today. That was great to watch and a perfect warm-up for that series as always. So very cool to watch that and nice to see I guess the usual suspects, but Jimmy have a good drive all the way through. I was going to say different people at the front, but mostly Jimmy. Maddie Campbell not here this weekend. It was a points opportunity, but Dan Suzuki seems to be making the most of it. I thought Emery, with her pole position, was going to be the one to do so, but couldn't quite put it together in the final race. She did do the fastest lap, but that was, of course, after the spin. Of course, there are bonus points on offer for fastest laps here, so that's a couple of bonus points going the way of Emery. But I think she would have been hoping for a little bit more in this event, especially with the very quick practice and qualifying times that she was saying. It doesn't seem like the race pace was quite there. Of course, she got involved in a couple of incidents as well. But we are ready for our interviews. Well, Matt, you're standing by with Dan. Yeah, Dan, who's come out with a win this time. Again, great racing, pretty clean. Bit close and touch and go with Jimmy at the end.
Yeah, a little touchy. Yeah, that was an awesome race. I mean, I was so nervous in the last race and the last laps. Jimmy did a great job with defending, and it was great. I'm still shaking a little bit here. You see, I have to say, in Barcelona, you were the standout for me. Your racecraft is very smart, and you seem to be able to pick your moves and not get involved in contact, which seems to be the downfall of a lot of the other drivers. Is that something you've had to work on, or is that something that you've always just kind of been patient with? Yeah, I always say pick your battles. It's not smart to go into moves that only will lose your time. You always have to check how much of the race is still left. Is it smart to go for the move? And what's the time difference between the drivers? And I really try to I try not to lose unnecessary and time unnecessarily, you know. Yeah, well, it's proving to be consistent because I think now without Maddie Campbell here this weekend, you lead the championship coming out of this, which is probably something that you're pretty proud of so far. But we switch to the Cayman next time out. Is that going to be more difficult for you? It's a car that I'm not really familiar with, I have to say. but I'm looking forward to it. Should be even more intense racing, I guess. Slower cars usually means even better battles on track, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah,
but definitely will be a new one for me. I'm not very...
It's a different car, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll come to terms with it very quickly. So best of luck with that. And we've actually got Jimmy in here, the man you just battled. Jimmy, I think you probably were sweating. I was saying on your stream, you were probably less talkative than normal and very focused in that race.
Oh, definitely. I'm a bit upset with Dan. I sent him over a big old check before the race to let me win this, and he didn't do it. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but... no, it was really awesome. I didn't really expect to be fighting with Dan of all people. He's a lot quicker than me in this car, I think. So definitely defending for my life for that.
What was your mentality? Because originally you kind of had an ally in Gabby behind that was creating a gap whenever Dan made a mistake. But then when it was just you two, were you thinking, right, defend this? Or maybe if you lost the position, you had a gap, you could still hold second?
Well, I was thinking that if he got by, he would just pull away from me. So I thought I had to defend. I was really, I think, on the edge of a couple of the moves. I think they're all fair, but they were very hard moves. So I was just trying to make sure that I could keep him there because I could sort of control him when he was behind me. But as soon as he got through, I sort of knew that was it. But it was awesome battling anyway. Is
the new livery part of this? Is this like a whole new mindset for you?
Yeah, I'm not having stock livery. Slightly less mint. So yeah, maybe people see me now. I don't know. In the last race, I didn't get seen. So
I thought it was the opposite. I thought the bright car, maybe everyone was making you a target. And now you're more inconspicuous. But yeah, hey, great result. You definitely got it on the podium. Second podium for you in the series. So looking pretty good.
Yeah, finally some points.
Yeah, well, third and second. Maybe first next time.
Yeah, maybe.
Cayman, though? Are you ready for the Cayman?
No, not at all. I only just got the hang of this car, so Cayman's going to be a bit of a couple.
I thought that might be the case for a few of you guys because the racing level seemed higher and more comfortable. So as soon as everyone gets comfortable, we switch the car. So we'll see how that plays out when you get into Cayman next week. But yeah, pretty good race overall, I have to say, Connery. That's definitely going to change the championship picture quite a bit.
So yet another fantastic race here in the All-Stars event, but we've got the professional sim drivers in the Porsche Heuer Esports Supercup coming up next. Our countdown starts just after this.
CJ, box this lap.
Not right now, boys. Come on, baby. Go for it. Go for it. Go.
Hey, CJ, you wanna come back in? CJ, are you there?
I'm staying out. Take it in, boys.
CJ, come on back in, buddy.
What
is he doing?
Go! I'm gonna stay in the car. Don't get up. Here I go.
Hey guys. How about some gas for the car and I'm gonna get some coffee.
welcome to round number 4 of the round number 3. I'll get that right, of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup here at Imola. This is the countdown brought to you by Tag Heuer as we wait patiently for the very start of qualifying. My name is Connery Maddock. I'll be your host and your pit lane reporter for this evening. Joining me for the pre-show is one of the commentators, Mr. Paul Smith. Paul, another round of PESC on the cards here, this time at a historic Italian circuit. Gotta be excited.
It's a tremendous circuit. It's one of my favourites to race here on iRacing, so I'm certainly looking forward to the action that these 40 drivers can bring to us today.
Yeah, absolutely, and hopefully they know what round number it is instead of me butchering it on the start of that one. But let's have a look at the recap last time out at Barcelona.
We have come across the Atlantic to Spain. Let's get on and get some hard action out there today. The sprint race in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup is underway, and it's a good launch by Joshua Rogers from the front row. That's Dan Beats. He's off then at turn number 12. Sanchez involved here. It all got a little bit tight into the back of Jack Sedgwick and then gets tagged by Gervin.
Rogers continues to lead. All red cars at the front. I think I'm going to put some more red on my car next year.
Sebastian Job is up to 9th place. He started 16th on the grid.
Sebastian's absolutely pushing. He wants these positions.
Oh, locks up from Sebastian. That's going to cost him 1 place, if not 2. But no. Oh, Özgard's made a mistake. Özgard is around, but it's still tight.
Unbelievable.
Beneka holding that inside line. He's trying to get it, trying to get the position. You see the leaders in the bottom right-hand corner. They're coming around. Sebastian Job is going to be starting on pole position here today.
This is where it's going to get so tight, and already we've got contact. That's going to cause a lot of problems further back. As the deeper you get, the harder it is to avoid those incidents.
Set source already trying to break the slipstream. Collins around the outside, gone a little bit deep. Look at that, Rogers straight away, decisive move.
Beneke is trying to get up behind Sanchez. This is a battle of 2 protagonists and forced out wide. In fact, collecting both, and Beneke is going to get both positions.
Oh dear.
We've got a battle back behind.
There's a car off. That's Max Beneke. Oh, he's just all locked up there.
Just a little too ambitious.
And Sebastian Job is going to win the feature race here in the Porsche Tag Heuer Super Cup by iRacing. Next time, 2 weeks, we'll be at Imola.
Well, there we go. That was a look at what happened last round at Barcelona. Bumper-to-bumper action up and down the field. Perhaps a little bit too much bumper-to-bumper action, shall we say. But let's have a look at your current standings at the end of round number 2. Mitchell de Jong leads Joshua Rogers by 6 points at the very top of the standings. Zayn Warren in 3rd place with Maximilian Beneke in 4th. Charlie Collins in 5th. Kevin S. Jr., Sebastian Job, Martin Kronke, Mac Backham, and Alejandro Sanchez, bringing things down to the bottom end of the top 10. But it was a pretty intriguing race last time out at Barcelona, Paul. It was really a race of attrition, I feel.
Yeah, attrition is certainly the right word to be using there. It was a difficult race for a lot of drivers out there. Many contacts happening as well. So be interested to see how they get on here this week at Imola. Hopefully they will have they've got that out of their system, and they'll be getting themselves ready to go for this event.
Yeah, hopefully ready and raring to go to be able to gain a couple of more points here in the first half of this season. It gives you that baseline to be able to have the room to work with in terms of points coming into those final couple of rounds. But we will start off with going through where we are at here for this 3rd round of the championship. We head to Italy. We head to the very historic track of Imola. Here's the view from up above then. 3 miles in length. decent amount of elevation change, especially coming through the middle sector, though you start off with that long run down in towards turn number 1, or rather the turn 1 complex, it should be said, because that is Tamburello. Previously, a very fast left-hand turn, of course, was reprofiled due to the unfortunate incident with Ayrton Senna in 1994. The same could be said for the Villeneuve chicane as well, because that's where Roland Ratzenberger went off in that very same Grand Prix weekend. And then you head into Tosa, that hairpin at turn number 7, before you start to climb up the hill towards the very fast left-hander of Piratella, and back down the hill again into Acqua Minerale. Of course, we still have Variante Alta here. There's one of the 2 chicanes introduced, but obviously we got rid of the Variante Bassa just a couple of years ago. And then in towards the final couple of corners before you get that run to the start-finish line. Paul, fantastic circuit indeed. Very tricky to overtake here, just like Barcelona, but for a different reason. It's because the track's so narrow.
It is narrow, absolutely. That's going to be one of the key features of this. But you've got plenty of high speed into low speed, so big braking zones. That's what you need to be able to create yourself some overtaking opportunities, is to have those big braking zones, and that's what we see. Plenty of elevation. Of course, where the red is deeper, that's where the track's at its lowest. So you can see that out there on the track outline. Certainly fantastic, a challenge that these drivers all enjoy out there. So definitely a circuit that we all love to take part in races and watch races here.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, you know, it's been in the limelight a little bit more recently, and it is a great track, not only for the history, but for well, mainly because of the history, but of course we love to see these Italian tracks on the service. It's really one of the homes of motorsports in the whole world. But I just want to move on here because I want to talk about Zayn Warren. This is one of the drivers that sort of just lurks in the background somewhat, doesn't make a flashy show of anything, doesn't really draw himself into the spotlight, but he has the habit of getting consistent finishes here, does Dane. It's the exact same thing happened at the very start of 2020. It looks like he's on that same run here in the start of 2021, but he needs to carry it through to the end now if he has any shot at the championship.
Yes, we see him launching over the chicane at Variante Alta, but you look at those finishing results there. The only blip in his championship so far was the feature race in Interlagos. He's a bit of a rarity, is Zayn Warren, because he is one of the very few drivers who have scored a pole position in qualifying. So Zayn, he is a quick driver out there. You can see him at work at the wheel, just having a look around, getting himself prepared. This is a time for these drivers to get themselves prepared, as he's actually going to pull over and jump out back to the pits for him. But yeah, these drivers, Zayn Warren, what a great start to the championship for him. Finds himself in 3rd place in the championship. He's not that far off of your championship leader as well. So definitely Zayn is somebody to keep an eye on throughout this event here today.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he's trying to hide something. He's something up his sleeves to try and show us before the season is done. So I'll be really looking forward to see if Dane can give us some fantastic side-by-side action out there, because we haven't really seen all that much of that from him. So maybe that's an element that he's still yet to show, and well, we'll get to see if he's any good at it in due course. But yeah, absolutely fantastic driver, and it's really that consistency throughout the season that's really going to benefit you and give you that platform to have a championship shot.
Yeah, I mean, the key to any season is to get that good start, which is what he's had to this season. He's had a good start. Yeah, he had that blip at Interlagos, but these things can happen to anyone. But he's been really, really solid on this championship. So definitely, he is somebody who can do well. And he's, as I said earlier, one of only 4 people who have ever got a pole position in this championship.
Yep, speaking of pole positions, thank you very much for that segue, Paul. A Porsche Tag Heuer connected watch is on offer for the driver that scores the most pole positions here in this season. It was Joshua Rogers was the winner of this award last year. Of course, it's the same award for this year as well. And, well, that's quite a award to get at the end of the season if you do well in qualifying. It's not just the points on offer here, it's watches.
Absolutely. It's not quite the same watch as last year that we're going to be getting. It's very similar, though. But yeah, Josh, I mean, what can we say? He has been the king of qualifying throughout this World Championship, throughout the history of this Porsche Esports Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. He has got 18 pole positions out of 22 championship events in this series. So he is absolutely dominant when it comes to setting those pole position times. Will there be anybody else to challenge him? I mean, there's only been 3 other drivers, Sebastian Job, Zayn Warren, who we mentioned, and Enzo Benito, who only raced in the first season of this championship, have got pole positions previously. So we need somebody here to step up and challenge to him, or else he's going to be running out of arms before we know it for fitting his watches on.
Yeah, that's a very, very nice problem to have. So I can't fit all of the watches that I've been awarded onto my arm, but yeah, fantastic stuff for Josh Rogers. We're expecting him to be very good here in qualifying today as well. That's where he's at home. That's where he's in his element in the sprint race as well. He's been able to get both sprint race wins so far this season. So will history repeat itself coming into Imola? That's the question that we have to be asking. Paul, do you think it's going to happen, or will we see another driver rise to the top when it comes to qualifying in the sprint race?
It's going to be very difficult to beat Josh in qualifying, and certainly I'd be looking at him getting a pole position, but you never know with everybody else out there.
Yep, you simply never know. That is the countdown presented by Tag Heuer, drawing itself to a close. The drivers are getting themselves prepared for our qualifying session in just a couple of minutes' time, where, of course, that Porsche Connected Watch, or Tag Heuer Connected Watch, is on offer. But here we go then. We will go to qualifying in just a couple of moments' time after this commercial break. Of the best sim racers. $200,000 on the line. Who will rise to the challenge? Interlagos, Barcelona, Imola, Silverstone, Road Atlanta, Montreal, Spa, Nürburgring, Le Mans, Monza. This is racing for immortality. This is esports personified. This is the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. Of the best sim racers. $200,000 on the line. Who will rise to the challenge? This is racing for immortality. This is esports personified. This is the Porsche Heuer Esports Supercup.
Well, here we are then for round number 3 of the Porsche Heuer Esports Super Cup, coming to you from Imola. Paul Smith here, along with Matt Trivett on commentary duties for, once again, another promises to be an exciting round of the championship here, Matt. But Imola, it's one of my favourite tracks to race on here on iRacing. What about yourself, Matt? This is a tremendous track. I'm
going to go 100% the opposite and say I hate driving here. It's a great driver's track, and it is an awesome circuit. It's just very tricky. And that's one of the reasons I don't like it, because if you get it wrong, it just feels so awkward. You're chasing the car so much, but when you get it right, it is beautifully flowing. And that's hopefully what we're going to see more of today, but it highlights the emphasis on things like getting the braking points right. You've got a lot of corners that come at you quite quickly, and you're still chasing the car from the previous. Think Villeneuve, where you come in between the two. You're kind of setting up for the second corner at the first braking point. Same with at the bottom of the hill at Aqua Minerale. So there's a lot of technical spots on this track, and it's quite narrow. I mentioned during the All-Star battle, it's all about curbs and making sure you can keep that car and momentum going forward as smoothly as possible.
Yeah, you've got to really ride the curbs, but not hit the sausage curbs around here, because those really do punish you here. But there's the track then. It's 37 meters of elevation change. You can see the lowest parts of the track by how deep the red is on that track outline. And, well, you're going down to Rivazza for the end of the lap for being the lowest part of the track. But historic venue right here in the hills, in the town here as well. So you get to see the unique thing of people just standing on balconies in the houses watching the racing go by. You inevitably, back when I used to watch Formula 1 on the TV, you'd see people with washing up on washing lines around here. So it's very much in the heart of the town here as the circuit.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, they do a UCI road cycling race here that links. They go the opposite direction on the circuit in those parts, but it links off of the back of, I think, I actually would have to look it up, but off the one of the ends of the circuit goes straight out of the roads, goes around, comes back in, and finishes at the start-finish line. So it's definitely a part of the culture in this area, in a small area of Italy, known as the San Marino. We're actually on that wall of drivers. Yeah. There we are. You and I are at the top because we're the quickest, but Connery alongside will be doing pit lane reporting, and there's a lot of the guys warming up. But yeah, I was going to say, known as the San Marino Grand Prix. It's actually in Italy, because San Marino's so small and within Italy itself. It's got great car culture in that area, no doubt.
Well, one person who doesn't like this track, just like yourself, is Jamie Fluke. He put out on his social media earlier this week, "I don't like you, you don't like me, but let's just get through this." So he's not a fan of the track here, but he'll be hoping for a good time, because he's had some bad luck.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been a driver that's not exactly found the results he would have been looking for earlier in this season, and there's been a few of those guys, certainly. To follow up on that point, Kevin Ellis Jr. had a great end to last season. We thought maybe he could make a step forward, finished 5th in the championship. Consistency was there. Incredible opening round at Interlagos, was leading the championship heading into round number 2 last time out in Barcelona, and didn't quite get it together. Kind of blew it on his own in a lot of the cases. Got into some contact early on, put him well down the order, and then second race was just a battle the whole time. And I think he finished 12th and 36th. Respectively. So definitely someone we need to see rebound. Still sits, I think, 7th in the championship, ahead of Sebastian Job, believe it or not, because he's also had a very unfortunate disconnect at Interlagos, so a technical issue. But yeah, Kevin Ellis, we need to see a rebound from him to stay in the picture. And as you guys highlighted, another one that's been quite good but hasn't quite got the results yet is Zayn Warren, who's looking like he could certainly be a threat.
Well, drivers are out at the start of qualifying, getting themselves prepared for the first of their laps here. Matsukai Desoya has found himself in a team now, so he's no longer an independent, so he's involved with the Inertia team outfit there. That's why he's got the change of colours for him. Livery. Yeah, it is stunning. Here then is car number 8. So Graham Carroll finding himself just, again, they're all preparing themselves, all getting the cars prepared as well, getting the tyre warming right and things like that. So these drivers, it's key is this lap before you start qualifying.
And I think we're going to see a shake-up in the order this week in qualifying. There's been a different approach for a lot of drivers and getting ready. And this is something that's been an issue in the series. We're going to see it again here. Whether it was, you know, fair or not, everyone's agreed that they're going to do it, and it's called brake dragging. And essentially, you're using 50% clutch, full throttle brake at the same time, and it warms the tires up dynamically in iRacing and gives you the best temperature very quickly. So there could be Coanda obviously nailed the strategy, had a very good run of things in the first 2 rounds. Now we'll see if that changes as everyone's clued into it and are going to go ahead and do it. And you can see them doing it now. There's Charlie Collins slowing down, and if you could hear the onboards, you'll hear the engine revved quite high. So Graham Carroll, just important to note, he's probably the busiest man in sim racing right now. He's been taking part in some other activities, I think Formula E duties as well. So we'll see how much practice he got in this week. Sebastian's been kind of going solo for the setup, and I think Graham's just kind of chucked it on the car. But he said he actually felt quite comfortable last night around the circuit, considering the limited running he's had this week.
Well, here's Max Benneker then across the line to start his first flying lap. So we'll give you a bit of a tour around the track. We've seen the track map, but now let's see how the drivers look out there on track. So this is into Tamburello, the chicane, as Connery mentioned earlier, brought in 1995. Important to get the run out of that corner, carry the speed, and there's the onboard of Max. Look at him, he's working away into Villeneuve, then the left and then the right. Use all of the curb on the exit of that corner and then brake really hard down to Tosa. And it's important to carry the speed out of this corner because it's a steep uphill climb as you head on up towards Piratella. And this is a corner, Matt, you've been talking about all broadcast. It's key around this track.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't seem like much, but you need to carry as much speed as possible while keeping the car as collected, because you need to get far left on the run down the hill to make sure you can get the braking right into Acqua Minerale. And if you're kind of offline or get a loose moment wide on the AstroTurf at the top of the hill, you're chasing it the whole way down in these cars, because the braking is key, and straight line braking, especially in the Porsche Cup car, is essential. So yeah, look at Max just absolutely smashing the curbs, nailing it. That's about as perfect as it gets through the chicane. He was, I think, quickest in the practice on the time screens that I saw, so definitely one to watch this race. And he's been incredible at working his way through the field, but now that qualifying and everyone's kind of clued into what's going on with the strategy, he might even give himself a much better chance up the order.
Well, times are starting to come in. So Mikael Gard is one of the first drivers to provisionally put himself at the top. But here comes Benneker then across the line. Will he best him right there? And the answer is yes. He's up to the top of your standings, a 143.4 from Max Benneker. In fact, forget about that. Sebastian Gerber 43.0. The times are coming in thick and fast now. And this is where you get to see who has got it right on that first lap. But the second lap is usually the better lap.
Well, it depends. We've said that, but with the tire warming situation, which again everyone's kind of come to terms with, it was Josh Rogers usually doing it on his first lap, and right now he sits 4th on the grid. Zach Campbell, Johan Arth, both ahead of him. So, and of course with Sebastian Job a provisional pole, this could certainly shake things up. I mean, you put Sebastian on the pole, my God, you're in for a treat, because he is so good in the race when he has clean track. We saw it in the feature race at Barcelona. It's important to note, just quickly, the temperature during the All-Star race was 40 degrees, a little bit warm, not quite as warm as Brazil, but warm nonetheless. It's 32.2 in this session right now, so a little bit more manageable. That's just a nice summer day, truthfully. That's pretty normal working temperatures for these cars.
Yeah, nice air temperature of just short of 22 degrees Celsius, and so yeah, that'll be shirt sleeve weather to be out there.
That's perfect.
Brian Lockwood, yeah, it's
as a Canadian, let's keep it like 25 or less. I'm good with that.
Same for a Brit, trust me. But yeah, here's Brian Lockwood then. Again, another driver who's not had the best of starts to the championship for him. He's out there on qualifying for the time being, just working his way through. And right now, he's yet to set a lap time. So this is going to be his first chance. There's a few drivers who have yet to set a lap time. Thomas Tetteler, Josh Thompson, Patrick Holtzman as well.
It wouldn't surprise me if some of that is actually Xing out of Aqua Minerale, very easy to get an X there. Through the chicane, if you take too much of the AstroTurf, you can certainly get an X. You can actually even get a slowdown penalty there. So I'm sure some of these guys have found the track limits quite quickly as we see more brake dragging going on. Personally, just to put my 2 cents on it, I think it has to go one way or the other. Everyone's got to do it or it needs to be removed, but I think that everyone's doing it this week is giving us a better image of true pace. And that might give us a bit more cleaner racing too, because people will be sort of in position for the pace that they actually have when it comes race time, and we might actually see some epic battles at the front this time around.
Just under 5.5 minutes remaining, and of course with the racing here in this championship, once that clock strikes 0, you cannot finish your lap, so you have to get your fastest lap done by the time the clock strikes 0. So it's a challenge for these drivers to manage it right, but they're well practiced. Here's Sindra Setsos then, working his way through Tamburello, heading towards Villeneuve, as there you see Sindra behind the wheel in his seat, and he's working away. Look at the focus and the concentration on his face as well here, Matt. He's absolutely in the zone right now.
Yeah, a little saucy for Sindra Setsos, but that's what it takes, this level of commitment. I mean, talked about the All-Star race being closer today. That's nothing compared to these guys. It's a half a second. Let me just scroll down on my timing screen because I don't even have a monitor that big for how close. It is 1 second gap all the way back to 34th place out of 40 right now, and the others are not far behind that. So, a millisecond late on the throttle, a tiny bit of oversteer, and you can give up 5, 6, 7 positions.
Yeah, you certainly can. Marina Sarica has set a personal best, so he's done a little bit better. But here's some of the drivers now looking to get their final laps prepared. So Holtzmann, one of those in the Team Redline car, the German. He is working his way through to try and get right. As Brian Lockwood, by the way, has set a lap time.
Yeah, Brian's got one in the bag now, at least a benchmark time, as we look at David Williams coming toward the line. Just to note, Patrick Holzman switching stables, formerly part of the Red Bull Esports lineup, did AlphaTauri, although in his days it was Toro Rosso still for Formula 1 Esports, now focusing strictly on this Porsche Championship and the Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup, but joining Redline to do so. Oh. He's had a bit of it. Yeah, that was a big slide, wasn't it? That's going to be tough for Kevin's tires as he runs to the line, but near the end of the lap, so hopefully it won't cost him too much. But just, yeah, Patrick, rough first weekend out in Brazil, but got it a little bit more together in Barcelona. Did get into some contact with Graham Carroll early in the feature race, but overall a much better weekend for him. I think he's going to continue to improve throughout the season as he gets more and more comfortable and more focused on solely running this series.
Well, the one thing that caught my attention is not the livery of Matt Backham's car, although we've seen that since race 1 with the Lego car, but Sebastian Job has gone a little bit quicker, so it's a 42. He's the only man in the 1 minute 42s, but look at this, Mac, you can see the intensity on Mac's face. He is focused, he's determined to move up that field because it's not going so well for him, down in 21st for the time being.
Yeah, and they've got to work for it this week. They know it. Again, Coanda was the team that was first to figure this out, and now everyone else has joined the party, and now they've got to sweat for these laps, and Mac is working the wheel. Yeah, shaking his head. He's not happy with that. A bit too much speed carried through the corner. Car gets unstable. Just to note as well, he and his teammates, Mitchell de Jong and obviously Josh Rogers, had an excellent drive in the iRacing Daytona 24 Hours last weekend in the top split. Don't even think, even after pit stops and strategy, they dropped out of the lead at all. I think it was flag to flag, which is extremely impressive over that time. But it was interesting as well to note that Mitch and Josh had very similar lines and gearing points, especially coming out onto the oval from the infield. They took the wider exit. Mac has a very different driving style. He'll hold it a little bit tighter and try and keep things a little more latent straight, as we say, to get the run off the corner. So different driver to his teammates, but obviously running similar setups and making them work. So yeah, definitely interesting to see that within the same stable.
Talons comes across the line. His qualifying is done. By the way, Joshua Rogers in second place and not able to get pole position here today, so he's been knocked off the top spot of qualifying here in this event. Zach Campbell, really good from the rookie to be in 3rd place. Johan Hart in 4th ahead of Alejandro Sanchez. Charlie Collins, 6th place for him ahead of Max Benneker, Kevin Ellis Jr., Jamie Fluke, and Josh Thompson up into 10th place as Benneker takes flight. He's got a pilot's license here today, it seems, because he absolutely all 4 wheels off the track there as he's heading down towards Rivazza for his final attempt. He's not going to improve looking at the lap time there. I think he's just getting a little bit more practice in.
Wow, maybe. Benneker up into 7th right now provisionally, but it's Sebastian Job that's still there. Rogers just behind. It's the 2 champions of the series, 2 seasons down. But you're right, Josh Rogers not being on pole, this would be one of the very, very rare occasions in which he's not. Also important to note, Thibaut Casabon has not put a lap time in, so whether that was X'd out or he had an issue, he's down in 39th as a result. Here's a look at Max getting all sorts of sideways off the curb. That is incredible. I love it. I smash curbs all day long. I think it's phenomenal. My dad, who's my mechanic, not so much, but that's not my problem, is it?
I didn't know that Porsche had taken into the airliner industry, but apparently so today. As Max,
don't know if it's the best industry to be in during COVID. It's not that busy.
Well, we'll be able to give you your starting grid then. Sebastian Job and Josh Rogers share the first row, the 2 champions for the previous 2 years. Zach Campbell and Johan Hart with Alejandro Sanchez and Charlie Collins. Then row number 4, when it flicks over, will be Max Benneker with Kevin Ellis Jr., Jamie Fluke, Josh Thompson, with Zayn Warren, the man who we featured in the pre-race, down on row number 6. There you see some of the others. Mitchell de Jong, championship leader, down on row number 8. For him, he'll be disappointed with that. Backham down in row 11. Thomas Tetteler in row 12. As we continue going through the grid, we're seeing how this grid has really been mixed up. Martin Krunke has had a really good opening to the season, but right now, down on row 15, he finds himself way down the field as the rest of your qualifying goes through the screen. Very, very briefly then, Matt, what we're thinking. Race number 1, sprint race. Is it all going to be down into turn 1 where we have the...
With this many cars on the grid, I think it's probably inevitable that there will be some contact. You think Barcelona, big wide track, open sweeping corners, you hit the last sector, things tighten up a lot. Here it's quite narrow and it gets tight very quickly. So I would say first corner, you probably see it be pretty clean, but into Villeneuve, you might get a bit more jostling for position. So definitely a spot to watch out for deeper in the field. But I think this could be the best weekend of racing yet. More so because with qualifying as it is now for everyone, the order is more accurate, if you will. Now, not necessarily for everyone. Some people may not have figured out the tactic and how to warm the tires perfectly. They're coming to terms with it still, but you've got a better indication, which means perhaps more wheel-to-wheel, door-to-door without the contact that we've seen further back.
Here we go then, of the first race of the afternoon here in the Porsche Heuer Esports Supercup. We're underway. Drivers blasting away from the grid. Rogers, Job side by side for the lead. Job forcing Rogers a little bit wide. Are we going to get everybody through the first corners? And it looks like almost so. There's one car off at the back, one of the Williams cars, but they carry on as they're heading into Villeneuve, the second chicane here. Everybody's behaving themselves so far as they're coming through into Tosa for the first time. There's Collins on the inside. Oh, there's one of your drivers further back. That's Maxim Ramstein, who's had an issue out of Villeneuve, so he drops down to the back of your grid. Ricardo Rico was one of those at the Tamburello corner that had issues. In towards Piratella for the first time. Still people going side by side. And there's Williams, David Williams alongside, oh, he was alongside Tommy Erstgaard, but out of Aqua Minerale, up the hill towards Variante Alta. And it is Job ahead of Rogers with Zach Campbell under pressure from Johan Hart behind him.
Man, I love that shot through the curves. Everyone bouncing over them to get the best line. Too wide through the chicane. Not going to work further back, but the first time, I have to say, very clean. Daniel Lafuente, just to note, was off in the first corner, so he's making position from the back, but not ideal.
Krunker is the one. Martin Krunker, who came into this round of the championship in 8th place. He finds himself all the way to the back of the grid. So interesting
to note when he corrected there, he didn't want to spin up the tires, so he actually stuck it in reverse to get it straight off there. It's still early in the race. He knows they'll be battling and he can catch the pack, and he wants tires left. If you spin them at all, they heat up so much that it catches you out deep in the race. So very small detail, costs him a bit now, but he'll make up for it later, hopefully, when he catches up. But this is the train we want to see. Sebastian Job leads the way. Josh Rogers all over him. Tiny, minimal gap back behind. And everyone this time through single file gets it pretty clean. I have to say, a lot less contact through Villeneuve than I expected. Only saw 2 cars involved in any contact.
Alex Walters is back in the pit, so he's going to be at the back of the grid for the feature race. But look at the front 2 here. They're trying to break away from Zach Campbell behind them. So it's the 2020 champion Sebastian Job leading ahead of the 2019 champion Josh Rogers. But looking further back in your field, Thomas Tetela, 23rd out there. He's in the pack here. He's got compatriots in front and behind, and the 110 car in front of him is Christopher Beat, so they're battling away for 22nd, 23rd. Of course, only 20 points available in this sprint race here, Matt, so you need to be moving forward if you're in that mid-pack.
Yeah, sorry to correct that. Not 20 points, but 20th position is the final court scoring position. Oh! And that is a big spin, and around goes Thomas Tetela, the man we were just on board with. So super unfortunate, and yeah, this early in the race, you've got to wait for everybody to go by. A bit ambitious to try and spin it back around. He's going to cost himself more time and a bit of tire as we jump back to the front. Alejandro Sanchez currently sitting right now, 5th position, needs a result. Remember, he and Josh Rogers, when Josh clipped the inside of the curb in Brazil, had contact that cost both of them a lot of points in this championship. Rogers is going to take a look, but yeah, Sebastian knows you just parked the bus in the middle on the way down to turn run. The track turns left before the corner does, so it comes back to you, and he defends perfectly.
Yeah, Job is creating a hole in the air there, and we've seen how strong the slipstream is this season for these Porsche 911 GT3 Cup cars as they head on through Villeneuve once again. And I have a funny feeling that Campbell in 3rd place is just sat there waiting patiently. He's wanting to see what these guys do. Further back, look at this. You've got Zayn Warren, you've got Jamie Fluke, Sindre Setsource, you've also got Graham Carroll in there. So this is 10th, 11th, 12th all together as a climb up the hill once again. And Fluke, he's trying his best to get himself ahead of Zayn Warren, but look at the leaders here. You can see the concentration. Sebastian Job working hard, working the wheel hard. Josh Rogers just casually just looking at his different bits of information. They'll both have teammates and engineers working with them in the headset, giving them pertinent information that they need. But right now, these drivers will just be focused for that lead.
Yeah, Zach Campbell, the lead driver right now for the VRS camp. In fact, for the Apex camp. Remember, we talked about Kevin Ellis Jr. being the standout of the first round. This will be the first time Josh Rogers hasn't had Charlie Collins or any of his teammates really near along with him to be his sort of rear gunner in this fight, and he's got to really focus on getting Sebastian all by himself. Likewise, Graham Carroll still trying to work his way through, up to 12th, starting 14th on the grid. 14th is where Mitchell DeYoung finds himself, so we are seeing a much different order this weekend, and it's great for the front battle, certainly changing things and puts a bit more pressure on guys like Josh, who isn't going to be familiar with this season.
As they head through Tamburello once again. Lap 4 of 9, so we're almost at the halfway point of this race, near enough, as they're heading into Villeneuve, and behind them, Johan Hart, Alejandro Sanchez, Max Benneker, these different nationalities. We've got the UK, we've got Australia, we've got the United States, France, Spain, Germany, all together, all different nationalities there in the front 6. It's tremendous to see that spread of talent throughout this championship and through these countries, as you see that continuing battle between Zayn Warren and Jamie Fluke on the lower box, and that battle for the lead in the top box there.
And the battle for 9th is an interesting one, because 9th is 9th. You start in the next race exactly in that position, whereas one position ahead and you'll have the pole. So the fact that they're battling over this is actually giving a bit of breathing room to Kevin Ellis Jr., which would be a perfect rebound for him. But you'd think that if if I'm 10th right now, if I'm sitting there in this battle for, oh, well, with a mistake like that, you got to go for it over the curb, too much of it, and unfortunately, Fluke's going to lose, or excuse me, Zayn Warren's going to lose out to Jamie Fluke. As he gets up the inside, he may lose more than that going down the hill into the final 2 corners, because that is a momentum situation that is going to unfold. I was about to say, if I'm 10th, I'm not going to make a move. I'm going to sit and let us get closer to 8th. Let them get into it, because that's where you want to end up ultimately. And if look, a move doesn't materialize last couple laps, maybe you go for one on your own just to get that one extra position. But battling too early, and you're giving away a chance at a better start in the next second race.
Well, Sebastian Job is keen to try and break the draft here. He's been weaving about on the track. He's got to be careful with that, of course. They'll be keeping an eye, make sure it's not too excessive. But through the chicane once again, heading towards Villeneuve. And as you mentioned, that front 8, the gap's out now. You can physically see that gap down to 9th place. So Kevin Ellis Jr., he'll be quite happy to just be sat there. He's kind of in that battle, but he's just hanging off the back of it. So Charlie Collins, he's got about a second between him and Kevin Ellis Jr. right now at the back of that field, that front gap, and then Jamie Fluke leading the train of traffic behind him. Charlie Collins, by the way, does have your fastest lap of the race, a 1:43.9, which is a full second slower than the qualifying time of Sebastian Job.
Yeah, that's certainly worth noting. It's definitely a different pace, but that has to do with tires being in the optimal range, the fact that you're in a train. There is a bit of aero wash, not a ton on a car that's not focused firmly on aero. God, I love the shot of them bouncing through the curbs at Variant Alta, but yeah, again, this is looking pretty standard formation. Josh keeps trying to get a run on the front straight, but again, it's such a long straight, and draft is so crucial, but you have to be very early to get alongside, because turn 1, the way it sort of kinks into the braking zone, you brake across the track, and it's very difficult to make a move.
What you need to try and do is try and force a mistake into Rivazza.
Yes, absolutely right.
So then you can carry the speed out of the corner, and that gives you that advantage all the way down the straight here.
Yeah, and the difficulty, I mean, if that's a one-on-one fight, it's easy to try and present a nose, limit the track, but where you've got 3 or 4 guys behind you and you limit yourself, you're giving up position to them as well, so it's difficult. As Connery's got some news for us, and I'm certainly there's lots of radio, I imagine.
Yeah, oh well, Kevin Ellis Jr. always on the radio. He had a little bit of a discussion with his spotter, Peter Berryman, at least in the opening portions of this race. Peter telling him to keep his head down. There's still opportunities in this race. Things are looking sketchy in that leading pack. But Kevin came back right back at him and said, car is feeling absolutely awful. Car does not want to turn in.
That's interesting then. So something's not going their way with how this car is feeling. But remember, in the middle of the opening event at Interlagos, he was saying about how terrible it was. Yeah, now a lot of that was to do with the heat of the tyres, but yet he still managed to get a win there.
Well, and the interesting thing is he's complaining about it again here, but if you look at the overall lap times, the fastest lap of the race has been done by Charlie Collins at 43.974. The best lap from Kevin Ellis Jr. is a 43.986. He's done the second fastest lap of the race so far. So if he's having those problems and complaining about it, that suggests that everyone's in a similar situation.
And of course, he's at the back of a train of 7 cars in front of him, so he's got that aero wash that we've discussed as well. It may feel different if he does have some clean air for him here, but there's a plunge downhill then Rivazza. Sebastian Job, a little bit of a gap to the Joshua Rogers in second place now, so 0.4 of a second between the two of them. Out of Rivazza once again, and look at Sebastian very deliberately moving from one side of the track to the other to line him up for this start and finish straight again. Also to try and break some of that slipstream as they come across the line here. Rogers, though, he's not going to be close enough to make any moves. Zach Campbell, however, is looking for moves on Joshua Rogers here now, Matt.
Yeah, and that's perfect. I mean, he's waited it out. Josh has been trying to get aggressive on Sebi. Tires, as according to Kevin Ellis, being a bit of a problem, perhaps. So this is a chance. If Charlie's sat back and been patient, he's been an outstanding rookie in the series so far this year. And once again, he and Charlie Collins are the standout this weekend, but Zach trying to make amends with not necessarily the best second weekend. He can have a great result today as we take a look at Zayn and Warren, who are in a battle further back again, though, for 9th. That's the gap to the front 8. That's your pole position, potentially just in front, Kevin Ellis Jr., but it's getting further and further away as these guys do more battle.
Yes, Zayn making the move into Tosa, Fluke running wide, and that's opened the door here. Piratelli, you can't really, it's more of a one-line corner through there into Aquaminerale. Somebody's got to give, and if Zayn isn't careful, here comes Zayn Warren down the inside, contact between the two of them. You can see how much Zayn was having to fight the wheel there on the top left hand of your screen there, but that's allowed Graham Carroll to go past and Mitchell de Jong. So de Jong moving his way through the field into 12th place, but we're back to the front. We're going to have at the line 2 laps to go in this this sprint race.
Yeah, so time to make a move if you're Josh Rogers. Sebastian that time, pretty steady run, but Josh a little bit closer. Don't quite think Zach Campbell's in a position to try and present his nose again this time. Seb's going to make that car as wide as possible. The fat hips of the Porsche looking as pretty as ever, but Josh wants to try and get up. This is it. So there's the kink. All Sebastian does is stay left. Track comes back to him. He forces Josh out. You get deeper and deeper, and the line stays to Seb. It's a very easy corner to defend, believe it or not.
It's more this part, though, because the different lines.
Oh, yep.
There's a cutback for Rogers. He's got a nose there inside. He's got to the inside for the first part of Valente Villeneuve. Seb Job, though, on the inside, clips a curve. There's contact between the two of them. Your 2 champions in the series getting together door to door. Here comes Zach Campbell now. He's wanting a piece of the action. He wants that second step of the podium here. Not quite close enough to get alongside, but Job now straight away on the attack. He wants to get back. A little bit more contact between him and Rogers, and it's Job that's back to the head of the field.
And it's going to put Rogers on the back foot because he's got to be so careful. He holds it. That's very well done because the braking for the second part of Aquaminerale is so important and so crucial. Job had the nose in, bit of contact. I think that's racing at this point because these guys have definitely swapped paint a few corners, and it's great to see, but what a battle. Sebastian's taking no prisoners. He's had enough in this championship this year. He wants to get back in the fight, and that's a heck of a move from both drivers, but it's the sprint race, and this is already what we're seeing.
Yeah, and there was also swapping of positions a little bit further back. Max Benneker moving ahead of Alejandro Sanchez, so up to 5th place for the German in this group of cars. But we're starting the final lap of this sprint race, and this is where now things may get a little bit more desperate. Or do people put their sensible hat on? Do they think, right, I'm in a good position for the start of this race. If I try something drastic and it doesn't pan out, you're throwing away a top 8 start there potentially. So the 8 of them then through the first chicane at Tamburello, stay in line astern, and Zach Campbell, you can look at him here. We're on board with him as they go through Villeneuve. And Rogers is feeling the pressure because he's trying to apply the pressure in front, but he's got the pressure from behind of Campbell. Look at how close they get through Tosa, up the hill towards Piratello once again. And Campbell, do you just sit there and think, I've got a good position, and just get yourself a good position for the start?
Yeah, it's definitely in the back of your mind. I don't think you're going to send a move here unless a mistake is made in front. There's no need because there's more to lose than there is to gain at this point in time in the sprint race. And again, that gap back to 9th place, imagine spinning and giving that up. I mean, this is at this point shouldn't be too much arguing going on. Pending mistakes. But further back, I just want to note that battle for 9th because Zayn Warren's back up into 9th place. Jamie Fluke 10th, but Graham Carroll and Mitchell de Jong have made it by Cinder Setsas. So some incidents in contact. There's the mistake I talked about. Sanchez sideways thankfully gets it together before anyone gets into him and forces him backwards all the way around. Might actually give him pole for the next race as a result of that, but still points lost in the sprint.
Yeah, that's 6th to 8th then for Alejandro Sanchez then in the sprint race. But to the front of your field, Sebastian Job, he's just got to make it around this curve here, and he will be seeing the checkered flag in this first race of the evening here. Sebastian Job is the winner of the sprint race here in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports. So we've got Josh Rogers in 2nd place, and Zach Campbell, the rookie this year, tremendous drive to find himself in 3rd place here.
Worth noting as well, by getting pole, there's points on offer for that. So it'll be the first time all year Sebastian's bagged those. First time for I guess one of the only times Josh doesn't. So that's going to shape things up. I know it's just the sprint race, but when you throw the pole points on top of it, that's a good haul for Sebastian. And Josh, close as ever, flashed the lights as they crossed the line. I suppose out of respect for a great battle, but now we get to do it all again as Alejandro Sanchez does inherit the pole, but very lucky, I think. I didn't quite see the tail end of the incident not to get tapped into a further spin because it would have left him well down the order.
Absolutely. There you see Carol de Jong moving forward. Setzel's moved back as well. See some of the other drivers in that mid-pack. Pekka Toivonen, the last of your point scorers in this opening race. Rest of your field, Patrick Holtzman, nightmare of a drive there, down in 30th place. And then the final page will show the rest of your field, but we'll be able to, in a moment here as well, as we see that Alexander Walters, the only driver not to finish. 32 seconds covered, first to 38th in the end, with Josh Thompson in 31st as well. Matt, take it away with Seb.
Yeah, absolutely. Race 1 winner. Did almost give up that first position, but you got your elbows out. Nice to be up front at the start this time.
Yeah, it's nice to have a pole. I feel like I've been qualifying well this season, so it's nice to show it. Really fun battle. Unfortunately, there was a bit of contact, but I've had a look and there was a bit of lag because I did leave room. So it's a shame it went like that, but it was a fun battle nonetheless. And yeah, second win of the season, so that's looking good.
Yeah, looking great. And plus the points for pole this time around as well, which is, I think, definitely something you need to get back into the, maybe not need, but want to get back into the championship. You were kind of practicing a little more solo this week. Graham's been the busiest man in sim racing, as I've been saying. And was that better or worse, or was there less feedback? Did you just get on with business as normal?
Yeah, so Graham was doing Formula E, which he did really well in. But it's frustrating, to be honest. Not anyone's fault. It's very hard to be motivated when you have no reference and you're working by yourself. And if you want someone to clarify, like, did this feel better for you as well? And you can't ask. So it's tricky, but yeah, managed it in the end.
You know what? Apparently you're the reference that everyone else should be asking, because the pole and the win, great start to the day. Now you get to do it all again from 8th position. So that'll be interesting to watch. Hopefully you can get through all the dramas. Best of luck. And Paul, I have to say, that was probably the cleanest race we've seen so far this season.
Yeah, that was a really, really good start to the opening round or opening race of the afternoon here. But we will just step aside for just a moment here, but make sure you stick around for the feature race of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup.
CJ, box this lap.
Not right now, boys. Come on, baby. Go for it. Go for it. Go.
Hey, CJ, you wanna come back in? CJ, are you there?
I'm staying out. Get you in, boys.
CJ, come on back in, buddy.
Let's go.
What is he doing?
Go! I'm gonna stay in the car. Don't get up. Here I go.
Hey guys. How about some gas for the car? And I'm gonna get some coffee.
Welcome back to the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup coverage here, and we are live with the bit between the two races, a little bit of the calm before the storm, but it has certainly been an interesting sprint race there. But before we actually just get into that, just quickly worth pointing out that it is this Monday evening, the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series Clash at Daytona. Make sure you watch that one, 9 PM Eastern time. For that event. That'll be the pre-season event before they get going for the World Championship coming up in just a couple of weeks' time. But that's Monday night. But Thursday night, that's Monday night. But today, here, sprint race of Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. You said it. It was one of the best races we've had so far this season. It's been tremendous.
Yeah, I think it has to do with the pace being a little bit more accurate with the qualifying as the way it is. So we're getting people more in the positions where their actual car should be, where they can run that pace consistently. And as a result, yeah, very clean driving at the front. We didn't see people have to really fight their way through and force moves further back because they were being held up and trying to salvage points. So yeah, I think overall, great race. Good little battle at the end, Rogers and Job, and nearly Zach Campbell involved in that as well. Alejandro Sanchez, nearly dramatic. So it was a bit of action all the way through that top 8, but they were the breakaway pack, which was very interesting to see because the battling further back allowed it. And maybe that's something to look for in this, because if they can break away again, it becomes a straight fight in the feature. There's nothing to lose per se. There's a little bit less risk than reward for the moves this time around.
And as always with this championship now, with the feature race, you've got that top 8 inverted grid. So we're going to be seeing Alejandro Sanchez, who, I mean, he must have had his heart in his mouth up at Variante Alta when that happened. But yeah, certainly he'll be starting from the front. Just some quick thoughts as well from Connery Maddock. Connery, what have you been hearing?
Yeah, I've been, well, hearing a lot throughout that entire race, of course, but I want to bring particular attention to Josh Thompson because he was feeling awful about finishing 31st in that sprint race. And, well, one of his team bosses gave him a bit of a motivational speech. Let's just listen in.
Rating. But that we can't change what's just happened. We'll look into it at the end, but let's concentrate on keeping our head in the right place, see what we can do in the feature race. I know it's frustrating. It's, you know, it's gut-wrenching for me to see it happening to you, so I can totally understand how you feel, but yeah.
Well, there we go. The words of support from Seb Hawkins, the team boss of Josh Thompson, or rather his spotter. But sometimes you really do need that, little boost, the little words of encouragement for you to go and achieve your goals, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, interesting to hear that then, Matt. So, somebody who finished 31st there. Sometimes different drivers have a different sort of style as to what they respond to, don't they?
And they have a different style as to what they respond to in terms of performance on the track. I can tell you, especially when you've got your family member and your father on the radio on the other end, it can get kind of argumentative at times. I've had races where we've disagreed and the car's gone backwards on setup and things just didn't work out, and it can break down. So it's nice to have at least someone with a level head on the other end of that radio to refocus the driver, because they're obviously a little bit more emotional about it. The guy on the outside needs to keep his emotions out of it and just focus. So definitely the right words. Focus on the feature. There's nothing we can do about it now. All you got to do is make the most of the opportunity. And championships are won that way. There's very seldom a championship where every single weekend goes perfectly. So you just got to make the most of the bad weekends and put together the good ones as they come.
Very briefly, Connery, what are you looking forward to this race?
I'm looking forward to potentially another gigantic scrap at the very front of the field. Multiple strong drivers in a very, very good position to take this race win. Sanchez starts pole. Ellis Jr., race winner on the feature in the first round, also in with a shot. Charlie Collins looking for his first as well. This is going to be great.
Well, we're getting ready for the start of the feature race here in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup, and we'll be able to give you grid in just a moment's time. But it will be Alejandro Sanchez starting from pole position after finishing 8th in that sprint race. Kevin Ellis Jr. second, and then Collins, Benneker, Hart, Campbell, your first 3 rows of the grid. Then the front 2 from the sprint race of Rogers and Seb Job round out row 4. Warren and Fluke, they'll continue their battle with Carroll and De Jong. rest of your field are going to be going through on screen. Tommy Erskard will be hoping for an improvement in this race. Ayachan Guvan, one of the new drivers to this championship, down there in row 10. And then we look forward. Matakai Desoya in a new outfit, the Finn driver down there, and Thomas Tetela getting involved in incidents in that race 1. And Alexander Walters starting all the way at the back. But we're getting ready for the green flag here in the feature race of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup of round number 3 here in 2021. Getting set, waiting patiently. The green flag is in the air and away we go for the start of this feature race. Good start from pretty much your entirety of your field as they're heading down towards turn number 1 then. Tamburello onto the brakes. It is Sanchez from Ellis Jr. and then Charlie Collins, 3rd place. Beneka and Hart going side by side through the exit of the first chicane, heading towards Villeneuve for the first time. Beneka having to drop behind Hart there, and there, contact, that's Seb Job, he's into the gravel trap, he is out of this contention for a win here. He's dropped all the way down to the back of the field. Oh my goodness, Sebastian, it went so well in the first race and now he's to the back of the field here.
Yeah, big drama. That's going to be a huge problem for him. We were just saying, you know, what a chance for points this weekend. Josh Rogers was just in front as well, and off goes Sebi. Big problems. It's going to be very difficult to battle back from the back of the grid. He'll try and make the most of it. Points to 25th in the feature, 20th in the sprint, but 25th in the feature. And one to watch right now, Salva Tollins is up in 14th. He hasn't had a ton of success this year. His best finish at 19th. Did have the fastest lap in that sprint race last weekend, but he needs to get inside the top 20th of the championship. Top 20 requalify for next year. And that's another battle we'll start to watch more closely throughout the year.
There's some paint being swapped there through Variante Alta as they headed down the straight there, and I think that Josh Thompson is one of those. In fact, Josh Thompson, I feel, has got a slowdown penalty from running wide. Oh, there's contact for Rico and another car, and that's the number 13. So Alexander Walters again getting caught up. There's other people involved in that one as well. Big drama further towards the rear of the field.
Yeah, this is just getting hairy now. Is back at the back. I mean, that's just a heartbreaking point to miss. That was massive. I mean, one car was off beforehand. You said it out. Walters came in just absolutely flying. We can flip back to the front where things are a little bit more orderly, but even then there's some battling going on. Bit of nose showing, but right now Sanchez in the lead and just behind. Kevin Ellis Jr. looking for a rebound. Weekend wide. You're right. Hart's way out on the grass. Beneka is going to gain one position. Was that Josh Rogers?
No, it was Collins. It was Collins who went wide. So Hart was right there with him. Collins went and clipped the curb. We saw that, and I think that Hart had nowhere to go, and Collins ended up off the track there. So down to 10th now for Charlie as we're on board with Alejandro Sanchez. Of course, Sanchez got his first win in this championship last year, the first Spaniard to win an iRacing World Championship event in this series. So he's got winning experience here, has Alejandro, but he's got some serious pressure from Kevin Ellis Jr. right behind.
Absolutely. Tons of pressure from Ellis Jr., the Scotsman, again, looking for a rebound. Did very well in the first race, kept it clean. Would have been on the pole if not for Sanchez's issues in the final lap, but second place still a good spot to be in, as further back we see Max Beneka and Johan Arth really continuing to battle. Hart is getting very aggressive with the nose in terms of trying to get Beneka into an incident, but good position for Max to be in early. We usually see him charge late through the field. Bit of a gap to the front, but that's due to the battling. If he can get things settled, imagine he'll be one to watch, potentially even for a win in this race.
Well, it was Max Beneka who actually made his way past Johan that lap, so he has made his way up into 3rd place. There's a bit of a gap though between 3rd and 2nd, and if the front two are really smart about this, they'll work together and try and really pull away from the rest of the gaggle. But look at that, Beneka, he's got a whole snake of cars behind him, all the way down, I believe, down to Jeremy Boothloop, down in 14th. So he's bringing that queue of traffic along with him, and he's trying to get to the 2 race leaders as they head out of Tosa for lap number 3. 18-lap race here in this feature race. Of course, double the length of your sprint race into Piratella once again. There's lights flashing going on further down the field, so drivers keen to make some moves early on to try and be in the right place towards the end of the race here, Matt.
Yeah, lap time here is going to be the real indicator for Max Benecca if he's actually holding people up or not, because remember, he made the move on the last lap. That allowed the gap to create itself in front, but Johan Hart's being so relentless that he's not giving Max a chance to relax and get that pace unleashed from that car. As we see Josh Rogers getting involved, big slide from Hart on the AstroTurf on the exit. That should give him a run, and I think Josh is going to at least get one position. What does Hart lose? Is he going to lose 1 or 2? Because charging and closing in behind, very near in this battle, is Zach Campbell as well.
Yeah, oh, Benecca runs wide. That's a mistake down at Rivata. Got his braking wrong. Loses out 2 places. He's going to have Zach Campbell right behind him. Johan Hart is flashing the headlights at Josh Rogers, who finds himself suddenly in 3rd place. But across the line they go. And it's Sanchez, Ellis Jr., Rogers, Hart, Benecca. Benecca's looking to make some way back past Hart. Behind them as they head into Tamburello once again. And in fact, Benecca, I can see the orange car, the orange and white car, there it is, up into 4th place ahead of Hart. So the German ahead of the Frenchman, with the man from the United States, Zach Campbell, in that 6th place, and he's keen. He wants to move forward here. He's got some good pace today.
Rogers is just so good at picking them off, though. While everyone's battling, it's he who comes through from what was 7th place, finds himself in 3rd already, and we know how quick he is when he gets track. Well, he's got tons of space in front of him right now, so absolutely massive opportunity for him to turn championship around, especially with Sebastian Job still back, just to give you a note, in 30th position. He has just got by Marino Sarica. A lot of cars already stopped, 35th to 39th out of this race. Alexander Wolter's still running about a lap down. Aiken Guven, I was going to touch on him having a decent first race as well. I think he was up into 16th or so. He's out. He's gone down already. So there was a lot of drama. We saw some of it toward the end of the first lap, and quite a few cars casualties in that.
Yeah, we'll bring in Connery. What have you got for us?
Yep, Kevin Ellis Jr. once again, he's always chipping up on the mic. It seems like this is a regular feature as part of these broadcasts. But earlier on in the race, his father said, there's no time to waste. You got to go for this one. You got to get it done early. So that's the message being sent to Ellis Jr. as far as that race lead is concerned. The one-on-one duel versus Sanchez. Here comes the draft. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you very much for the Kevin watch there, as it seems to be throughout this championship.
But well, think back to Brazil. He was in exactly this situation. He was sitting in 2nd place. He knew his tires were going to go away. That was the story in Interlagos, and he had to make the move early. He did it, and he won the race. So if he's in a similar situation here, yeah, he's going to be aggressive early. He wants that track position, knowing he can defend, and he controls what he, his pace, his rhythm, and what he needs to do to keep that car alive.
That last lap, by the way, Josh Rogers was just a hair short of being 4/10 faster than the 2 in front of them. So Rogers has got the bit between his teeth. He's moving forward here. He's been able to gap out Max Benecca and Johan Hart there. So Ellis Jr., I think it's quite right for his teammate to be in his ear telling him we need to move now.
Benecca's got to be a little bit careful, though, because so far I've seen his individual lap times come through, but he's not posted a best lap, which in my opinion means that he's not done one cleanly. That means he's going to be counting up the X's. You're absolutely right. He's disappeared. Okay, he's coming around the now, but he's lost 2 positions in that corner.
Hart's lost more than 2 positions. He was.
Oh, you're right. That's Jamie Fluke
down the order. Yeah, so Hart down to 10th place now. So Campbell, Fluke, De Jong, Warren, Collins all moved ahead of Johan Hart, and I believe that will be up at Piratella. That will have happened there for him. So nightmare for him. He was battling with Zach Campbell. I saw it in the background of the shot whilst we were focused on your leaders that Campbell was fighting with Johan Hart as they headed towards Piratella. So possibly something's happened up there.
The fact that he's rejoined in 10th and lost a few seconds suggests he didn't go all the way around, but he might have got a big slide wide on the AstroTurf in Piratella. I'd love to see it, because it's an interesting corner to have a mistake as we look back to the draft in the front. Again, similar situations to the sprint race. It's the draft, but easy to defend corner 1. It's got to be a run out of turn 3. That's the better part of it. Sanchez giving a bit more the inside than Job did for Rogers, but still holds the position for now.
as Rogers sets the fastest lap of the race, a 44.371. So times are a little bit slower. The track temperature, it's worth pointing out, 35 degrees Celsius now. So a little bit hotter than that sprint race that we had just a few moments ago. So that means that tyre preservation and looking after your tyres is going to be key in this race if you want to be quick towards the end of the race here, Matt, because if you burn them up at the start of the race, you're just going to be a sitting duck towards the end.
Yeah, absolutely, but I understand Kevin Ellis Jr.'s sentiment. If the car's in its prime and you're in a position to attack, you've got to make way for it. You are right, though. You can overdo it very quickly. Sanchez quite wide coming off of top of the hill, but all good into the breaking point. This might give Kevin Ellis a bit more blood in the water toward the chicane, and if he can, again, it's all about setting it up, getting him offline, putting that pressure on him, maybe getting a run down the straightaway. But Josh Rogers inching closer again and again each and every lap, and Max Benecke is not far off of it as well. Wide from Sanchez, just to note off of that. That'll certainly give him an X off that corner.
Yeah, as the two leaders battle. Here's a replay of what happened to Johan Hart then. It's Zach Campbell on the inside into Piratella. He got a wheel on the grass. Big moment there. Heart in mouth moment. Manages to get himself rejoined ahead of Set Source, but down into, that's Aqua Minerale. A little bit of contact between him and Set Source.
Yeah, that might have been a little bit of netcode, it looked like, even, so potentially not quite intended, or even, I'd love to see the onboard, it might have been avoiding action, not really realizing that Johan had come back on and was alongside completely. But back to the front we go, and it's still the battle. Sanchez leading the way on Kevin Ellis Jr., who's definitely going to be feeling the pressure as Josh Rogers continues to close down the gap. And he's got, again, we're on 7 of 18. If what he said on the radio is true, he's going to be looking to make a move. He's a bit closer this time into Villeneuve, but no chance here. Hold it. Keep the line. Get a run. Maybe you can force a bit of a move into Tosa. Get him offline, and then it's up the hill. It's a drag race. But it's, again, even that kink at 8. On the map, it doesn't look like much, but it's tough to hold the outside to get the breaking point into Piratella.
Yeah, and with it being a fast sweeping corner on the crest of a corner, crest of a hill as well. Voice going there as they go through the apex there. It really is on the one line because the car naturally wants to push wide on the exit of Piratella as he plunged downhill.
I thought you were being dramatic. Your voice was cresting the hill there.
Absolutely. Well, we'll say it was on purpose when it wasn't. But anyway, it's live broadcast. That's what you get. As they head into Variante Alta once again. Connery, more news from Connery.
Yeah, more news from Ellis as well, as we'll just make this a thing, as he's been on the radio talking a lot. Let's just listen into what he has to say.
Yeah, got Rogers, then Benecke. I expect probably 4 or 5 laps.
You just can't keep them away. The draft is so strong.
So it looks like he's a little bit more concerned about losing time to the likes of Rogers and Benecke behind him. So, multi-elements, these sorts of battles, it's not just one-dimensional, try and pass the car ahead of you. You have to be worried about all those cars behind as well.
And this is a dynamic of that first corner. The draft is so strong that it's going to tow people behind you up close to you, but you get that same effect. You'd think, well, why is that not letting him pass the car in front then if it's that strong? The problem is it gets you close. Getting the pass down is a whole other problem. So now you can see it. Josh Rogers is all over the back of them, and Kevin Ellis just can't get the braking done or get enough of a run. And likewise, Sanchez is driving a perfect race. He's not made any mistakes to allow that to happen, but this is a very different dynamic, as Connery said, with Josh now presenting himself in this battle.
As the great Murray Walker used to say, catching is one thing, passing is quite another. And that's what you're seeing right here now as Alejandro Sanchez, as I say, both him and Kevin Ellis Jr., both race winners. They've got that experience of being at the front of the field. But Rogers, champion in 2019, he's a multiple race winner. He knows what it takes to get that. We've not even reached the halfway point of this race either, Matt. So, Rogers can afford to maybe just take a little bit of time, be patient behind the two in front. Just
to note, Sebastian Job, who had the drama early on, he's back up into the points. He's in 24th, so another 4 positions since the last time that we checked in. It'll be a difficult day for him from there, but at least he can salvage something from this now. He's running 44.8, so about 4/10 off the lead battle, but certainly stuck deep in traffic, as this is now a 3-horse race. The draft is strong, but I don't know if Benecke is going to be quite close enough to take advantage of it. It's usually, and I don't know about this track with the longer straightaway, but usually about a second to feel the strong effects from it.
Yeah, as they've managed to gap out from Max Benneker in 4th place. He's got that queue of traffic behind him as well. Race leaders across the line, 1, 2, 3, as quickly as that. Josh Rogers looking to the inside of Kevin Ellis Jr. And Ellis Jr. hasn't even fought that one at all. He's just said, you know what? Away you go. You two start fighting. I'll pick up the pieces.
I think that's exactly right, because he didn't defend at all. And maybe he thinks, all right, Josh, if you've got this much pace now and you haven't had to use up tires while I've been trying to attack, you give it a go, and picking up the pieces might be the approach. So he can still hold on to this. It gives him a chance to back off, use the draft to keep in touch. But Rogers, man, he is on a move, no question about it. And we'll see if Sanchez has the same similar smooth style with Rogers behind as well. You're right, bit of battling going on. Max Benneker, who's alongside? It's actually Zach Campbell.
Yeah, and Zach Campbell, we saw with Johan Hart how good he was on the run out of Tosa as we look back from your race leader, Alejandro Sanchez. Benneker, you can see on the timing tower on the left-hand side, that's live timing, so you can keep up to date with everything that's going on there. Benneker is just staying ahead of Campbell, but your front three are still absolutely neck and neck, but Josh Rogers has just got that little bit of an advantage, 3/10 a lap advantage over these two of Sanchez and Ellis Jr.
I said about Max Benneker not having a best time on the timing screen. He still doesn't. I think that must just be a timing glitch, because there's no way he's done this many laps with that many X's and still battling the way that he is. So certainly I think he's probably in the clear. We're seeing a lot of track actually used by Sanchez coming out of Variant Alta as well. So there's quite a bit you can use, and this is going to be an incredible run. Yeah, already Sanchez trying to break the toe. He knows that Rogers is very close this time.
Yeah, Sanchez, I think, will put up a bit more of a fight. Well, no, he won't. He's just taken the normal racing line, and Rogers, it's almost as if they're like a doorman on the front of a hotel. After you, sir. That's exactly what's happened there, because Rogers now to the head of the field. Is Sanchez more worried about Ellis Jr. and thinking I can't compete with the pace of Josh Rogers? And he's thinking maybe just getting that second step and not battling too hard to bring them back to Benneker.
I am surprised to see them both concede the inside. With Kevin Ellis, where he's got more to gain potentially from letting Rogers battle, I can understand it. But when you're the lead car, I think Sanchez needs to at least put Rogers on the outside. Even if he loses a little bit down to the Villeneuve chicane, you still contest it. You don't need to use up too much more tire. You tighten the corner a little bit for turn one, but it's the same braking. It's the same forces on the load. And yeah, I'm a bit surprised by that. You're right.
As they go through Aqua Minerale, literally translated to mineral water, as they go down through there up to Variante Alta. Now Josh Thompson is showing at the top of the standings here, but that's because he's had to take a tour back to the pits. And the way that happens is, if you start a lap here at iRacing and then you end up in an incident and have to take a tour to the pits, it moves you all the way around the lap, and that means that he is up at the top of the standings there on the timing tower. That'll soon drop down and work itself out as the drivers go past the line here.
Essentially the car is a transponder, and that car's gone to pit lane, so it's jumped ahead on that lap. But as everyone cycles through, he'll fall as you see it happening. Now the front three crossing the line, so Thompson with an issue. Don't be misled. It is Josh Rogers leading the way, and actually has about a car length more than Sanchez has had at any point over Ellis Jr., so he's put a bit of a gap in that lap as well. Goes purple. No, excuse me, he didn't quite. It was a 44.8, his fastest 44.3, so he's actually still 0.4 back. I misread that, but he's made pace, no question about it. A little bit lost out of turn 3, though.
Still, Josh Rogers still manages to be half a second quicker on that last lap, so don't ask us how that's possible. Connery.
Yeah, I've got a report. We've got team radio actually with Zach Campbell, who's embroiled in that battle for P4 with Maximilian Benneker. Let's have a listen.
If he wants to defend like that, maybe you should go faster.
Yeah, quite spicy, quite spicy. I think there's tempers flaring.
Yeah, the pressure is really getting to Zach there, and thankfully we do have the bleep machine working here today, because he's not too pleased with the behaviour of Max Benneker.
Yeah, not at all. And Max has certainly been someone to raise a few eyebrows. Mr. iRacing, he's known as. He was the first driver to pass the 10K iRating mark. I think something like 6 years ago. He didn't even know what iRacing was. He's obviously been the world's fastest gamer. He's done a ton of sim racing in the years. And he's aggressive. He's known for it. And I've talked to a few drivers that say, hey, if he gets by in these races, sometimes you just want to follow him through the field. The problem is there's no one for him to get by right now, and he is certainly holding them up. And that lead trio is benefiting from it. They're well down the road. It's now a gap that's almost up to 3 full seconds from Ellis Jr. in third, back to Benecca in fourth. So, yeah, look at the train. And there's a few people even further back than just the radio we heard. Zayn Warren was looking to make a move last time into Tosa. So there's a lot of battling going on still.
Absolutely, as we've got 7 laps to go here in this race, in this feature race of the Porsche Heuer Esports Super Cup. There you see the drivers involved in this battle, embroiled in this battle for 4th place. Max Benecca, the top left of your screen, and then the bottom left is Zach Campbell, the man who's in 5th place right now. He's got Jamie Fluke not that far behind him as well. It's kind of spread out a little bit, has that gaggle of cars that we had earlier on, and we're getting these little pockets of battles now, aren't we, Matt, that seems to form around this track.
Yeah, it seems to be the case, and a lot of that's momentum based, but even still, I'm very surprised to see so many gaps at the front of the field. The 8 train that we had in the first race, and now it's a 3-car race. It's starting to break into a second little battle of 3 to maybe back to 5th. Back to 8th of 5 cars. But if the draft's that strong, we'll see if they can hold on. We'll see where tires are. Jamie Fluke, this is a good turnaround from him. Obviously, Johan Hart had the incident behind, dropped back out of contention, but Jamie's making up for it. He was someone you touched on that was not too happy with how the season had started. This is a much better weekend so far for him.
Yeah, Jamie, he actually almost injured himself. He hurt himself in the race, the incident in the feature race at Barcelona last time out. So it goes to show that in this esport, you can actually injure yourself with the equipment that you're using. So you've got to be careful.
Carpal tunnel's real in Counter-Strike, I'll have you know. Okay.
RSI, yeah, that's an RSI there. But as we head across the line here once again, by the way, Mitchell de Jong, there was obviously time in the track here because Mitchell de Jong's just set his own personal best here. So he's found himself in 7th place. A great race for him to come up from 12th on the grid. As well, we'll look further back on your field. So this is the 121 car. It's Diogo Pinto, one of your new drivers to the series. In front of him, he's got Patrick Holtzman. So Holtzman's moved forward from the start of this race. David Williams and Matt Backham behind these two. So this is all over 16th place, and it shows that the battles aren't just at the head of the field. They're also there in the mid-pack as well.
Yeah, talk about 2 aggressive drivers at one piece of real estate. You've got Pinto and Holzman trying to work their way back up. Pinto, just an out rookie in this series, had an excellent Daytona 24-hour on iRacing last weekend, finished, I believe, P2 to the Coanda boys that we mentioned earlier. So came through the field and held his own. Patrick Holzman right now, red line livery, just trying to hold on to that position. Bit of a gap ahead of them. It's Graham Carroll, who couldn't quite hold on, I have to say. Remember, he started with Zayn Warren and Mitchell de Jong, who have actually got away from him and moved a little bit further up the road in this race.
Yeah, so they'll continue their battle further down, but it's back to the head of the field. And Sanchez, he just got a little bit too loose and a bit too close to the back of Rogers into the first pass of Rivata there. That could potentially cost him going all the way down the start and finish straight here, and could allow Kevin Ellis Jr. to maybe make any moves. But at the moment, actually, they're pretty even as they go across the line. So Sanchez trying to get himself a good spot and a good line, but he's not really able to do anything into the Tamburello chicane. You can see the rest of the field behind working their way as well. People are starting to set themselves personal bests now in this mid to late stage of the race. Obviously, people who've looked after their tyres now are starting to bring themselves into the battles and really starting to push on now here, Matt. And that's what we talked about at the start of the race. That tyre management now coming into effect.
Well, and this is what I'm starting to question, and I'd love to pick Sanchez's brain toward the end of this, not really defending hard, but knowing that the draft is so strong. And we heard Kevin Ellis talking about that. That's what brought Josh to the front so quickly. Maybe just sitting in that pocket is letting him relax the tires a little bit more, and he's going to plan on attacking again later with 5 laps to go, because I was very surprised not to see more defending as we look back to the battle for 9th. This is where Johan Hart found himself. He rejoined in 10th after that incident, but now there's quite a few in there, including Salvatalen. So I mentioned much better weekend this time around, looking for a great points haul in 11th place currently.
Two Frenchmen, a Brazilian and a Spaniard here in this battle. Haas and Boutaloop, the Frenchmen who are the bread of the sandwich, and Giassi from Brazil, Talons from Spain, working here in this battle for 9th place. We've got Sindra Setsos as well behind them here in this battle, so Setsos finds himself having to work his way back through the field after getting unceremoniously just knocked out the way by Johan after his rejoin down at Aqua Minerale.
I think Sebastian Jobs had another small incident. He was up into 24th. I mentioned he was making his way forward. He's back to 28 again now, and that's no points at all. So not at all what he would have looked for. I'm sure he was being rather aggressive. I don't know exactly what happened, but he was probably risking a little bit more than he normally would.
And as they move forward, there's your lead battle at the moment. So the top left is your battle for the lead. The battle for 4th is a 5-car battle now, because people like De Jong and Fluke have really been kicking into gear in that battle. Zayn Warren, by the way, has set the fastest lap of the race in 8th place, but just behind him is another 5-car battle, which we were looking at. Hart, Giassi, Talons, Boutaloop, Setsos and Collins. Setsos is the back of that one. Collins a bit further back from those 5. So we've got battles all the way through the field. 4 laps to go here. And, well, business could be about to pick up in about 2.5 laps time here, Matt, when people start getting a bit itchy and want to pull the trigger.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be. The discipline will be dropped slightly, and the decibels will go to 11, and we'll see if moves can be made. I mean, Sanchez, again, he's still sitting in a prime position. Don't forget, Ellis Jr., he's primed as well. He let Rogers go early. He's been sitting in the draft the whole race. I'm curious to see what De Jong's got up his sleeve. We've seen him drive very conservative and smooth races, but now he's on the back foot compared to where he's found himself most of the season. And in fact, the championship leader right now, if he wants to make a move on Fluke. But yeah, this is going to be a really intense battle at the front, as already Sanchez looking a lot more aggressive this time in the draft.
Yeah, he's looking keen. You can see that body language of the car looking. He's trying to move about. He's trying to draw Josh Rogers' attention. But Rogers, it's somebody who rarely makes mistakes. We have seen mistakes from him, such as the level of competition here in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. But Sanchez, of course, was involved in an incident with him and Rogers in the opening round of the championship at Interlagos as well. So Sanchez wants a little bit of retribution here.
Yeah, 3rd place in the championship last year behind Job and Rogers. He was the best of the rest and gave them quite a challenge, to be completely fair about that. But this year, due to that early contact, find himself in 10th with an 8, a 12th, and a 7. So already in a much better position, and that includes obviously the sprint races, but already in a much better position than he's been in the previous rounds. And recovery drive at this point for him. Every consistent result is going to get him much closer to the front of the field.
Yeah, so the 3 of them still sticking as they are. I don't think we're going to see any attempts until maybe the penultimate lap or even the last lap. But if you leave it to the last lap, you don't give yourself much room for error, do you? You sometimes actually see people make the move on the penultimate lap, and if they do make it, great, they can defend. Whereas... But it also gives you that chance on the final lap as well.
At this track, you might see it on the penultimate lap only because the front straightaway is where you're going to set it up more than anything, and you need to get that done across the line, rather with a lap left rather than at the flag. So, yeah, I think certainly you're trying to force mistakes. The lack of opportunity around here, you've got to put the pressure on as early as possible. You can defend quite easily, and now we're seeing Sanchez snaps out late. That's going to leave Rogers the inside, but it's the run out of 3 that might get compromised as a result of this. Sanchez well up the inside, actually holds the inside for 2. Very impressive.
Yeah, they're still side by side through the exit of Tamburello. They're headed towards Villeneuve now. I was about to point out that Rogers does have a slight bit of damage that may be losing him a kilometre or 2 on the straight. And that might be giving Sanchez the opportunity. Still side by side into Tosa. Sanchez could get on the power earlier on the outside, but Rogers guiding him off the track. Has Sanchez a big moment there on the exit of Tosa, but the heat has been turned up now. This is it. This is where the battle for the lead is going to be decided.
What a battle, man. That is awesome to see them go wheel to wheel through some of the tightest corners and switching back and forth, both with the inside line and giving each other room. This is phenomenal. And Kevin Ellis Jr. is going to be licking his lips, but it's a narrow circuit. Even though they're slowing each other down, battling, he can't do anything about it. He's got to wait for a door to open. And one might, because we're heading down the hill this time by and on to the final lap. Braking is going to be crucial. Sanchez loses a little bit out of the chicane, but the draft, it's all about the draft now.
Sanchez needs to run out of Rivazza. He needs to get the run. Giving himself that little bit of space into Rivazza can happen, actually help you sometimes. The battle for fourth on the lower screen there, but we've got the battle for the lead coming out the final corner. Rogers trying to break the draft. The rest of them in from fourth back are battling as well. Slipstream is king here, and we're on to the final lap of the feature race here of round 3 of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. Kevin Ellis Jr. flashing his headlights as well. He wants to make moves, but looking back, Zach Campbell also all over the back of Benecca. But we go back to that lead battle, and they still are together. Ellis Jr., great run out of Tamburello. Can he make any move? No, he can't. And that means that Sanchez is going to hang on to second for the time being. But this is intense.
Yeah, Sanchez got a little slide coming out of Tamburello, and Rogers was deep in too. He's outbraked himself. This is the opportunity, but it's up the hill. He's got to get a run that's difficult.
Yeah, he didn't quite get the run out the corner there. So Tosa, such a difficult run, but they saw the mistake. We said how Rogers rarely makes mistakes, but we've seen it in this championship, and we've seen it again. Another lock-up like that into Aqua Minerale or down into Rivazza, and that could be the win for Sanchez. But Sanchez, compromised through the exit of Aqua Minerale. Here comes Kevin Ellis Jr. on board with the Scotsman here, up towards Variante Alta for the final time. No move to be made here, and the only move really he can make is down into Rivazza, because you're not going to have enough of a slipstream out of that final corner. But Sanchez is too far behind here, and that's going to allow Rogers at the front to be able to take the win. Just 2 more corners here, 1 more corner to go, and it's going to be out of that final corner. The Australian Joshua Rogers finally gets a feature race win here in this season of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. That's how much it means to him. He doesn't normally celebrate like that. That was an intense race, and he knows it.
Very well done from Josh Rogers. You have to say, second last time out. He's had 2 sprint race wins. This time he goes second in the sprint and does 1 better in the feature. Very well earned as well, battling back from 7th on the starting grid. Really clean through the field at the start, you have to say, but that was an amazing battle with Alejandro Sanchez. And Kevin Ellis Jr. the whole time, he's going to be bitterly frustrated, but he didn't really do anything wrong. He sat and waited for the opportunity. It's just that everyone drove so well.
Well, there we go. There's your results. So the Australian Joshua Rogers winning a feature race here in the 2021 Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup ahead of Alejandro Sanchez and Kevin Ellis Jr. Max Benecca just managing to stay ahead of Zach Campbell and Jamie Fluke in 6th, with the American Mitchell de Jong 7th, Zayn Warren 8th, Johan Hart managing 9th, and as Jeff Giassi. The rest of your field as we scroll through. Salva Talons was 11th, the Spaniard, with the Frenchman Jeremy Bouteloup in 12th place. Indra Setsos, Charlie Collins, Graham Carroll, Patrick Holtzman, Matt Backham, David Williams, Diogo Pinto, and Maxime Ramstein round out your top 20. And further down, managing to get himself only 2 points, your 2020 champion Sebastian Job. He'll be ruining that first lap here today, and it'll be a case of what might have been for the Englishman. There he is, 24th ahead of Brian Lockwood, the last of your point scorers. Rest of your drivers will be on screen, and there was only really the top 30 that actually finished on the lead lap. Everybody else was affected in that race, had instance, and ended up out of the race here, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw some of that contact a bit further back. Alexander Walters, we certainly see almost like brake failure. He was so deep coming down the hill at the final corner at Rivazza. So, yeah, great racing, though. I think that was probably the cleanest of the weekends we've seen. action for all the right reasons. Tons of incredible wheel-to-wheel moments, and that was a great battle between Sanchez and Rogers on the second last lap, especially while they were arguing over position. But that was, yeah, definitely a well-earned victory for Josh. Feature victory. Didn't get the pole position points this time by, but that's going to give him a big boost in the championship, especially with guys like Mitchell de Jong, who's been leading the way coming into this, a bit further down.
Well, let's lead you then seamlessly into the Buzz post-race shot here on the coverage. And, well, what a drive, what a performance from Joshua Rogers to start in 7th place in that race. And Matt, take it away with your race winner.
Yeah, Josh, some sort of superpower to get everyone out of your way. You battled through the pack quite cleanly at the start, and then it was just about getting in the draft.
Yeah, you know, obviously it was going to be a challenge to get through the first few corners unscathed. I think, you know, at least this race I was mainly just coming into it trying to have a good solid run, score some good points towards the championship. I mean, it's only round 3, so there's a long way to go. So, you know, consistency is something that I lacked a little bit last year, and something that we're trying to improve for this one. So yeah, I came into it trying to be nice and patient, and you know, we kind of worked our way through that first pack for a little bit. And then, yeah, from there it was trying to catch the front group without burning my tyres up a little bit too much. I think I probably pushed a little bit hard. Ultimately, I could have caught them a little bit later, so I maybe should have saved my tyres a little bit more. Last couple of laps, I was definitely starting to struggle with the rear tyre, and especially, you probably saw on that last lap into Tosa, I almost completely threw it away, locking the inside front. So, yeah, I worked the tyres a little bit hard, but no, all in all, it was an awesome race, and glad to be able to get the first win of the season, you know, the monkey off the back.
Yeah, well, and more celebration than we're used to seeing from you. I think more than even the 24 last weekend, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I mean, I was happy about that one. You know, whenever you kind of come from the further rearward spots for something like that, it's always feels a little bit better. And for me, I knew that this was an important race for the championship, especially after I saw Seb got caught up in an incident or something during lap 1. So for me, the main focus was just, you know, score as many points as you can. And yeah, that's why I was so amped at the end of there. I was happy.
Obviously, fuel saving not an issue in this race, but was it more of an issue of conserving the tires in the lead? Because obviously the draft you can relax a little more. We thought it was a bit peculiar that they didn't defend you that hard. Maybe they were trying to save to attack you late.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I wanted to get past Kevin quite quickly, but I didn't want to get past Alejandro so fast. I wanted to kind of sit there for a little while and just push him to burn his tires up. Ultimately, he was smarter than that, and he pulled out of the way. But yeah, I think in these kind of races, being out front isn't necessarily something that you want, because you're always, like you say, having to work the car a little bit harder to keep the speed up. So yeah, I guess, you know, obviously everyone's racing really, really smart out there, and especially with this draft package, you kind of have to. So, but yeah.
Yeah, and obviously qualifying this time around, it I think, give you a little bit more trouble with some of the faster guys further up.
Yeah, it was certainly more of a challenge. I mean, some of the other guys, I think, kind of sorted out the warming potentially a little bit better than what we did. I mean, Seb's lap was insane. I don't think we were ever going to touch that. My lap wasn't perfect. Maybe there was a 0.0 in it, but there was nothing more. So that was an awesome lap from him. And yeah, I think in the first race, it kind of showed that draft was king. So yeah, maybe it was even a little bit better for us in that first race, being off the second place spot.
Well, congratulations on a great feature win. Good weekend overall, and certainly a ton of points needed in the championship that'll get you back near the top of the table. So well done, Josh. Congrats on the 24 last weekend as well. And obviously another driver we need to talk to right now is Alejandro Sanchez, because he gave you a heck of a battle, and he is also someone looking to recover in the championship. So I think it would be only right to let us hear from him, because this was a great weekend of recovery, Alejandro.
Yep. Good evening. First of all, congrats to Josh on the win and Kev on P3. I think it was a very nice battle between me and Josh on the next to last lap and the last lap. It was really enjoyable, and we got a good haul of points for the championship, which is really good to get back on track, because I was like P10 before this race. So yeah, good haul of points.
Well, and it's interesting as well, because you two battling in Brazil, you were unfortunately caught up in a mistake on his part where the curb kind of sent him into you, and that's kind of put you on the back foot ever since. But this time by, was it more strategy than you thought? Like, you obviously let him go trying to save tires potentially with the draft?
Yeah, I knew the draft was really strong, so I didn't really give him a battle when Heuer took, and I tried to stay on his tail as much as possible to make a move late in the race, and that's what I did. But yeah, it was more of a strategy race than anything.
Yeah, how much were you worried about Kevin Ellis behind you as well? Because he was saying on the radio early that he needed to get you and needed to get by, but obviously you were thinking the opposite and wanted to save the tires.
Yeah, I mean, I've raced Kevin many times and we kind of worked together, so I wasn't really too worried about him as long as I didn't make a mistake, a really obvious one that made us lose Josh. It was just a matter of not losing Josh and getting a shot for the race win at the end of the race.
And you nearly did, and not least of which because Josh nearly outbraked himself on the second last lap. Did you think maybe you had it then?
Yeah, I gave it a go on the inside, but he exited the corner with more speed, so I had nothing to do. I wasn't going to risk the P2 and the points on that left-hander after the hairpin. So yeah, I just kind of backed off a little, and then I got a little bit loose on Agua Minerale, so I didn't have much to do after that.
Yeah, well, great race either way. Second place, that's exactly what you needed in this championship.
Yeah, I'm really happy with the result and just wanted to thank MSI Sports and ART for the job done on the car this weekend. It was really quick and really easy to drive.
Perfect. Well, hopefully we see similar results next time out. And yeah, with that, I mean, Paul, that's I think, probably the best weekend we've seen in terms of raw pace for everyone, and really gives us I think the first fair shake at the championship picture, even with Max Benecke up near the front as well the whole time.
Yeah, certainly was really good to see Alejandro up there. But yeah, well, now let's have a quick word with the third place driver, Matt.
Yeah, third place driver, winner the first time out, and similar situation. You were in second early in the race saying you needed to get by, which we find interesting because now we're hearing from them they wanted to save tires, whereas you just wanted to get on with it.
Yeah, we were kind of stuck in the middle there, I think. It was kind of similar to Interlagos where we had Alejandro out front, me second and Josh third, so I was sort of in two minds whether to go for the move and potentially cost time or just let Josh get to us, let him go and try and pull us away from Max and the rest of the guys behind, and just try and make it a 3-horse race to the finish, which thankfully we managed to without losing too much time. So yeah, after that I just tried to kind of keep the tyres under me and just wait for the eventual attempt at a move. But this track is just so narrow that when Alejandro went for a move, I just had no space. I had to just try and pick what lane was going to move, and there's just no space to try and get 3 wide. So unfortunately I just had to kind of sit in third and take a deep breath and just stay calm, really.
Yeah, well, hey, stayed calm, collected, and good points total. Another podium for you in the championship. Gets you back up near the front. And with that, we head back to a circuit everyone's familiar with. First one this year, I think that's going to have no elevation as we head to Silverstone next week. We'll talk a little bit about that. It's the post-race show, but why not we pre-race the next race, Paul?
Absolutely, yeah. Silverstone, the home of British motorsport here on the post-race show, and it's certainly a circuit that every one of these drivers will be familiar with here. And well, it's just a few days away already. This season's coming thick and fast. February the 6th at 7 p.m. GMT. Make sure you set your alarms for that one, because it's going to be, again, slipstream is going to be key around that track, Matt.
Yeah, big time. Absolutely. You've got a number of straights: Hanger Straight, Wellington Straight, tons of phenomenal flowing corners. Obviously, Meggetts, Beckett's, and Chapel is world famous for a reason, but a great facility nonetheless. I'm a fan of the older one. I'm not a big fan of the inner loop, but hey, that's just me. It certainly does mean it's got some more technical braking and some potential for overtaking in there. So I don't know. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see that track come into the picture. And as you say, certainly a track everyone knows.
Yeah, certainly everyone knows that track, and they've done plenty of racing around there here in iRacing. But just quick final thoughts here. In Imola, tremendous race, Matt, and also Connery as well. Tremendous race. Final thoughts quickly.
Yeah, Connery, I don't know about you, but I thought that was the best race yet, and we saw some really good battles at the front. A lot of respect given between each driver, and the pace was rapid.
Yeah, I think a lot of the drivers have really calmed down a little bit here in the third round of the championship. Of course, things can be fast and frantic in the opening couple of rounds of any championship as people try to find their footing, try to find where they are in relation to everyone else. I think everyone's finally started to settle down now. Qualifying was pretty exciting as well, with a couple of names getting themselves back to the front, which is what we love to see. And it resulted in some absolutely amazing racing out there as well.
Well, that is going to be all that we've got time for here today on the Buzz post-race show here in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. But make sure you join us in a week's time at Silverstone for what is going to be some fantastic action. If you thought that was fast and frenetic, well, Silverstone will give us even more of that. From Conor Maddock, from Matt Trevitt, and from myself, Paul Smith, and everybody involved here in the broadcast here, thank you very much. And until next time, it's goodbye.